What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the 25th episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today I am joined by the one and only Mr. Colt Eastwood. How you doing on this fine Saturday?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I mean, we're friends, so we might as well talk about games.
Exactly. Last time I had you on, it was one of the earliest episodes of Xbox Chaturdays. So I'm excited to have you back. And since then, a couple things have changed. First off, you're showing off the beautiful mug to the world, which I'm excited about. That's been a new development for you. So, what led to that change? For the longest time, you were Vox only, the sultry Xbox voice on YouTube, and now you're the sultry voice followed by the chiseled jaw. What led to that?
Yeah, it's so funny. Once you open up the floodgates for that, yeah, it's been interesting to see the feedback. But I posted a picture of myself when I got the Xbox Series X for review, and I decided to come out of hiding and just talk to my audience and connect with them, because I feel like when I've been behind a voiceover guy, that I couldn't connect with my audience and talk to them. And so now I'm on camera and people are like asking all kinds of funny questions, and I'm excited. It's been really good. It's the best decision I've made in a long time on the channel. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see more kind of longtime people in the Xbox community get their face out there. A big part of this show for me has been, putting a face to the names of all these people in the industry. So I've been bugging Dealer a lot. I'm trying to get him to show his face on this show. So that's a work in progress. We'll see if I can make that happen. But yeah, I've constantly been harassing him about showing his face to the world. And also, last week, you launched the Xbox Newscast, which is the Colt Eastwood hosted Xbox podcast. What led to the kind of foray into the podcast space?
Oh, starting a podcast has been something I've been thinking about for quite a few years. And I just decided once I'd start getting on camera, because now on my videos, I do an intro and outro on camera, and I absolutely love that. And I decided it was time. For a long time, I wanted to do a show where I'm interviewing people in the industry. So it was a really scary jump for me to do, because I've been in RDX podcast, representing them on the shirt. I've been on that show for almost 4 years, and I sit back in front of the mic and watch the chat and talk to people and answer questions. But now I'm in front on camera leading a show. It was a big leap to take. A lot of people do podcasts, but for me, it was a big leap.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to see. First episode was awesome. Pretty stacked lineup. Jeff Grubb and Rich from old Review Tech USA. So a solid lineup there. And I'm excited to see you get out there and, find your own podcast voice. Because, yeah, I've listened to RDX for years now, and I know you've been a key part of that. So it was cool to see you jump out and kind of do your own thing in the space. So today's show, we have a lot to talk about. We have Starfield exclusivity, which has been some developing news very recently. We're going to be talking a little bit about Omen, which is a rumored project to be revealed at E3 this year. We're going to be talking about Battlefield 6 being held back by previous gen consoles. We're going to be talking about and we're going to be talking about the state of E3 2021, because there's been some developments there. But before I get into all that, quick shout out to the 111 folks joining us already. Really appreciate you guys joining us live. I'm going to get to a couple super chats that came in real early. First off, Mr. Joanna Dark. Happy Chatterday to you two gentlemen, and excited to spend my afternoon with you guys and the community. The stuff like that warms my heart. Mr. Joanna Dark, a legend in the Chatterdays lore. Good hanging out with you. Who else we got? We got Syndex in the house. We got Firestarter. We got Lol Shaka. Thanks for joining us. Another super chat from Brian Hopkins. Miles, Zombies Ate My Neighbors 2-pack releasing for newer consoles next month. I willed it into existence. You up for co-op? Hi, Colt. Yes. Colt, do you have any nostalgia for Zombies Ate My Neighbors? Did you ever play that slapper back in the day on Super Nintendo?
No, I didn't. I've never even heard of it. I jumped off the Super Nintendo after like a year or so when it came out, but No, what is it?
It's this quirky little game where you're basically like a kid and your neighborhood is infected with zombies. So you basically get a squirt gun full of holy water and rid your neighborhood of zombies. It's a silly
Oh, okay.
silly little shooter, but yeah, a ton of nostalgia for that. I played that a lot on Super Nintendo. So yes, Brian, let's go. I don't think there's online co-op, so co-op might be more complicated, but maybe we'll figure it out somehow. But let us talk about the biggest breaking news right now, Colt. And that is homie Jeff Grubb came out and jumped on the proverbial grenade and basically said with no uncertainty that Starfield is only exclusive to PC and Xbox. Posted that on Twitter, followed it up with a tweet that said, go ahead and write the stories. So just really kind of baiting the people who typically take his stuff out of context and spin it into a news story, and confirming, more or less, that Starfield is an Xbox PC exclusive. What were your thoughts when you saw this tweet just explode last night on Twitter?
I thought, how would it feel to have that kind of power that you could say something on social media and everyone will just explode into on the keyboards and stuff. So yeah, my very first thought is, if you're surprised by this confirmed, what do they call it? Confirmed claim.
Yes, the confirmed claim. Yeah,
confirmed claim. If you're surprised by this, so what the heck have you been doing for the past decade? Have you watched acquisitions and buyouts and partnerships? Like, this surprises you? I know people were wondering, well, you know, the game wasn't developed under the full entire umbrella of Xbox Game Studios, like, you know, in the last year of development that they acquired them. So that's just still not how things work. So I put out kind of I'll use a Miles term, I put out a spicy tweet about an hour before the show went up. And I said, if you have a PlayStation only and you want to play Starfield, get an Xbox, a PC, or an Xbox Live account with Game Pass, because you'll be able to play Starfield almost anywhere that Game Pass exists, which could be on a browser on your mom's laptop. So I don't know what's to be upset about.
I'll even go one step spicier and say, y'all got phones, right?
Well, I mean, I know most people don't want to play a big AAA epic game on a phone.
No.
But I mean, for, you know, $80, you can buy a huge Kindle and play it on there. Or you can load up an older laptop that has Windows 10 that's compatible and play it through game streaming. It's crazy. It's amazing. Like, Xbox gives you the most flexibility to play how and where and when and which way you want.
Yeah, there's a lot of people kind of spinning Xbox as the big bad guys here, and they're taking games away from PlayStation fans and PlayStation owners, which that in of itself is ironic for the people really invested in the hardcore PlayStation space, because that has been what the platform is built on. But Xbox is giving you a lot more flexibility than, say, a PlayStation 5 exclusive, which is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. You have to buy a PlayStation 5 to play this game, which right now is hard. It's really hard to get a PlayStation 5, even if you want one. So that automatically kind of reduces who can play these games.
Isn't that kind of scary for Housemarque? Like, they put out this big game, like they stretched their legs and made a AAA game on a Returnal. And then they have to sit there knowing that their audience is only at about 7 million available. You know, and a big AAA exclusive can sell 5 to 7 million across the PlayStation ecosystem, but not every single PS5 owner is going to buy Returnal. So they've really limited who can play that game, because it's a next-gen only title, and which is good, but not good when you can't get these new consoles. That's something else we should talk about today.
Yeah, that's something, we'll definitely talk about that a bit today, especially in the Battlefield segment, because, realistically, a lot of people who want a console just can't get one. That's the reality. You know, there's a lot of people scouring the internet every day to try to get the PS5 or try to get a Series X. So, yeah, it is scary to put out a game and know that your cap is X million. Best case scenario, you can only sell X million if every single PlayStation owner buys one. And
that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. Not every game is for everyone, and that's fine. That's totally fine, but it kind of limits the market share. So in regards to the whole Starfield thing, it's kind of funny how that all came out, because basically on Xbox 2, Rand was getting a bunch of super chats and DMs from people saying, Jeff said it's not going to be exclusive, Rand. And Rand has been the champion of Starfield is 100% an Xbox PC exclusive. He's been shouting that from the rooftops for a long time. He's been very vocal about that. So he came out on Twitter and basically was like, I don't know, Jeff, can you like clear the air? Like what's going on? And then that's what led to the infamous Jeff Grubb tweet, which it's been wild to see that kind of explode and people report on that as fact. I don't know what information Jeff Grubb has regarding this, but for him to come out on Twitter with a statement that definitive, I have to believe that he has something that makes him feel confident, 100% confident that this is the reality, because at the end of the day, if for whatever reason that did not end up being true, Jeff Grubb's Twitter feed would be ruined for the end of until the end of time. So yeah. I'm confident that he has really good information. I don't know exactly what information he has, but to your point, this has been kind of widely assumed in the community for a really long time. You know, people like Paris, who's hanging out in the chat, say you don't spend 7.5 billion just to keep status quo, just to let everyone play anything everywhere. So it makes sense that if there was a contract in place per se, because that was my stance, is the only reason that Starfield would be multi-platform is that paperwork was already signed for multiple platforms, and they are just going to fulfill those contracts. But if Xbox is trying to leverage Xbox Game Pass, leverage Bethesda to grow their catalog of subscribers, it makes sense for them to say, hey, you want to play this big new Bethesda game, the first massive new Bethesda IP in a long time, you're going to need to be signed up for Xbox Game Pass, or you're going to need to own an Xbox or a PC.
And you can see why people would say, you know, previous signed contracts, because we see Psychonauts 2 and Wasteland 3, and there's probably one other game that it's coming out multi-platform out the gate that belongs to Xbox Game Studios. But for sure, Wasteland 3 and I just said it and I already forgot it. Psychonauts 2,
yeah.
Yeah, those games are coming out on PlayStation, even though they've been bought and they're right underneath the Xbox Game Studios umbrella. I keep looking down at your excellent Halo 3 gameplay. So that's great. Yeah, so I can see where people would have that doubt, but you can see this shift to get people a unique experience only in the ecosystem. And it actually surprised me when I think about that, why Wasteland 3 didn't just become an exclusive, why it was multi-platform out the gate. And maybe there was a contract, but like you're saying, Jeff Grubb must have heard something that gave him enough confidence to stick his neck out on the line. But it also makes me laugh that when you make predictions or you make claims based on good information you've heard from people you trust, that you have to go to the gallows of the Twitter universe and be quartered for making a claim that may not come true. You know, like Jeff Grubb said that Xbox Live Gold is supposed to go free. I also made the exact same claim the same week as him because I'd heard the same thing. And people thought since it didn't happen that week that he's a liar. And that's just not how it works. So
yeah, these things are complicated. These things take a lot of time, regardless of, you know, people have really good sources, but rarely in these cases of kind of insider information and I heard from so-and-so, do we have the documentation that lays out exactly what this is going to look like. So I'm in the same camp. I believe that Xbox Live Gold will go away, but I believe it's going to come at a point when Xbox Game Pass has hit whatever their internal metrics are. I've heard different numbers there. I've heard that 50 million is kind of the target. Yeah. Like once there are 50 million users, that Xbox Gold will go away. Again, I don't have a document that says 50 million is the magic number where they just cancel Xbox Gold. But when you're running a business and you have this revenue stream, it's going to be hard to be like, hey, we're just going to turn that off. As much as Xbox wants to be the good guy, the nice guy, your friend, they can't go to their investors and be like, hey, we're going to turn off, we're going to, you know, make gold free because we want to be nice to our
revenue.
Exactly. We want to be nice to our fans. So we're going to stop taking all this money for free, basically. That's not really how it works, unfortunately. A business is designed to make money. So I know top brass at Xbox, a lot of the leadership team wants gold to go away or wants gold to be rebranded in a different way. But they're getting a steady stream of money and they need to offset that. And that's where Xbox Game Pass comes in. And that's why Xbox Game Pass is such a huge pillar of their business right now.
Yeah, like when we think about how Game Pass doesn't make a lot of money or it's not profitable, or that whole argument where people are trying to prove if Xbox Game Pass is worth their money, it's just like the console. Like they're just trying to bring more people into the ecosystem. They're making money over here because this helps them make money over there. And it's the same thing. Like I'm sure they've told the investors, if we get rid of Xbox Live Gold, we'll bring more people into the ecosystem. But once we get this balanced over here, we'll be able to lose this and it'll all work its way out. And I think that's in 1 to 2 years. I think 2 years maybe is my best prediction, because I think they can get to 50 million Game Pass subscribers in the next year or so.
Yeah, I agree. We'll shoot past 30 million easily by the end of this year.
Right. If they're going in the same speed of growth. But, after this E3, when they show a bunch of games and they show what Bethesda is bringing to what Xbox is already working on, yeah, a lot of people will jump on Game Pass like they did last fall. So
yeah, if they can come out this E3, and it's still kind of up in the air realistically when it comes to will Starfield launch in 2021. That's been another kind of widely debated thing right now. The goal has been to launch Starfield in 2021. But as we've seen with so many different developers and so many different games, COVID has thrown a wrench in that, and a lot of plans are being pushed. And that's just the reality. Every time I talk about COVID in a video, somebody comments and says, you can't use that as an excuse. I'm tired of developers using that.
Yeah.
And it's not an excuse. It's just the reality of trying to develop a game right now. You can talk to a lot of developers online, and they will all say the exact same thing. It's slowed certain processes down in a very tangible, realistic way. In the US, we're better adapted, especially than some Japanese studios, which are struggling because they haven't supported a realistic cloud infrastructure. So in the US, we're a little more productive in that sense, generally speaking, but still.
You mean for working from home?
Exactly, yeah. When it comes to work from home, we're a little better equipped for that. But it's still affecting development. And if you're saying
if your game had motion capture in the past year, you probably weren't able to get your studio to complete any of that work from home, obviously. And but something like Starfield, that was probably already done. I'm not sure. I don't know in what order that works. So I am also hearing that the goal is 2021, but I'm also hearing that may be pushed into the next quarter. And that's totally normal. But the problem is, as Xbox fans, we've waited a long time for new games, for new IPs to come to the ecosystem. There's been a lot of great games, but new stuff hasn't been around. And some of the new stuff that wasn't even made by Xbox didn't hit very well. So I'm talking about Recore and Quantum Break and Rise. And yeah, those new IPs didn't pan out.
It didn't explode and lead to, The Last of Us, the Spider-Man that a lot of, PlayStation hardcore kind of point to when they talk about those big exclusives. And
yeah,
I've said this plenty of times before, but yeah, starting this fall with Halo Infinite, we need to see the fresh face and the future of Xbox Game Studios. And that's been a hotly debated kind of conversation is, does Halo Infinite need to be X? And it's become a meme now. If Halo Infinite isn't X, then this X will happen. And so there's been a funny meme regarding that. But I'm in the camp that it really does need to hit in a really big way. And it kind of sucks for 343. It sucks for that team because I know they understand that. But if Xbox Game Studios wants to get on the same caliber that everyone talks about when it comes to PlayStation exclusives, stuff like Halo Infinite needs to come out, and it needs to be the best Halo that's ever happened, because that is the promise that they've made with Xbox Game Studios. Is they're giving all these teams more resources, they're giving all these teams the flexibility and freedom to make the best games that they possibly can. So that kind of needs to be the precedent set, and Halo Infinite will be the first true big Xbox Game Studios release. And I want to know your take. What do you does Halo have to be the Halo Infinite have to be the best Halo, or can it just be an okay Halo and then the world will move on?
Uh, yeah, I'm in the same camp as you, Miles. Halo Infinite has to be incredible. 343 has one of the biggest IPs in gaming, so they can't do well enough. You know, they have to wow and shock and awe the fans. The fans deserve that. Halo 5 was still like an 84 Metacritic. It's still really good, but it gets called the worst Halo ever. And if the worst Halo ever is an 84, wow, we've got some crazy complaining to do, right? I mean, it's the same score as basically as Ghost of Tsushima and Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales and a couple other big PlayStation games. Like an 84 is not a bad score, but because Xbox has had a deficit in big AAA compelling games lately, that Halo Infinite has to be really great. 343 is responsible for that IP, so it has to feel great. Like it looks like it's got a little bit of Doom 2016 in it with faster combat, you know, connected fluid combat. I already know 343 can make the best looking Halo games, Halo 4 and 5. I still say, in my opinion, I'll back it up, those games are the best looking Halo games. Better than the ones that Bungie made because they're a little bit older too, but they know how to make a really great game, and they didn't show us a great looking game in 2020. So they've taken an entire year just to clean up graphics and finish the game. So I expect it to look great. That campaign better be really fun, and it better have some type of story in it that grips you, like that the pilot that he's trying to help. There better be some like personal, emotionally driven, motivational story that will get me through to see what's going to happen as I get from level to level. I didn't feel like that was the case in Halo 5. I did in 4, but not in 5.
Yeah, Halo 5, campaign-wise, was a weird misstep. There was a lot of confusing design choices in Halo 5 when it comes to the narrative and the way they presented the campaign levels. I was not a fan of the weird transitional points where you were in a town, walking around, talking to people. That does not translate well to 4-player co-op gameplay at all. That was a huge jarring disconnect from, for me, where Halo has always shined, and that has been tight, fun gameplay. And when you take that away, and then you force a story that's uninteresting, you're gonna upset a lot of core fans, and that's where Halo 5 went wrong. So wrong that Halo 6 was completely canceled, and they went with Halo Infinite as a reboot. So yes, I agree that Halo Infinite needs to have fun, great, classic gameplay with some new innovations, and it also needs to have an amazing story, because as much as I liked Halo 4 and 5 for like the world and the art style, the story was not interesting to me. The whole like dynamic with the Prometheans was, I don't know. I don't read the Halo books, so maybe that's on me. I need to read the books, but at the same time, I shouldn't have to read a bunch of Halo novels to enjoy the story presented in a video game.
Right. I mean, I didn't read all of the Lord of the Rings books, but I love the movies. So. Yeah, if you make your content really great, you don't have to read Grimoire cards like in Destiny to get the full experience.
No, don't. I can't. Don't take me back there, dude. That was the most obnoxious way to present a story. It's like Destiny 1 base story, terrible, unless you go through and read all these Grimoire cards. And no, don't do that. I don't like that. If Halo shouldn't be that. I get games like Dark Souls have done that well. Like if you go through and you read the lore of a piece of equipment you have in your inventory, but inherently the storytelling in that is cryptic. Whereas Halo has kind of been more on the nose. You have cutscenes, you have reasons pushing you along in the story. Whereas, Dark Souls is more about the mystery of this world. So yeah, Destiny failed there. I hope Halo Infinite has a better focused story.
Well, I still think that Halo ODST is the best Halo. In my opinion, it's my favorite one. And you could grab these audio logs about this young girl right as the Covenant attacked the city in New Mombasa. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but you could pick up these audio logs and they would immediately play, and they were like a couple minutes long each. And as you went through the open world, you would get a little bit of the story as she was trying to escape the city and get her uncle and get into a cab, and some guy was trying to kidnap her. And while I was walking around the city by myself, it was it had the audio log had her voice and all the background effects of the attack and explosions and grunts and Covenant trying to chase her. And so it was like I was listening to this audiobook while I was playing, and it painted the story of this city being brutally attacked by the Covenant. And I'm like, wow, that's really great storytelling. I want Halo to do that, like make me feel like I'm in the world. And I hope they can do that.
Yeah, because the world of Halo is fascinating and it is interesting. So I want to be legitimately connected and grounded with these characters. And that's something that, Halo 4 and 5 especially didn't do. And that's one of the biggest complaints of those, is it didn't deliver that same successful narrative. Gameplay was tight. Gameplay was really great in Halo 4 and 5. Multiplayer in Halo 4 and 5, which is another key pillar of Halo, incredible. Halo 5, I would say, has the best multiplayer of the entire series. So
I think that's why it got rated so well. Yeah, and it's still really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So quick shout out to the 270 folks rocking with us already. If you're new to the show, thanks for joining us. We're live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're liking the show, smash that like button and share it out. I'm gonna get to a couple.
I'm gonna hit that right now, so the rest of the chat can join me. I was number 75.
There we go. There we go. I'm gonna get to a couple quick super chats here before we transition. Brad Ward coming in hot. What's up, Xbox Chatter lads? What are you hoping to see from Halo Infinite over the summer? Have a great show. So we're talking about Halo, so I guess we can dive on this a little bit more. What do you need to see from Halo Infinite when it's shown at E3 this year?
I mean, we've already pretty much covered that, but I just thought I want to see some more of the weapons in action. There's a really cool battle rifle that they showed with like a pop-up reflex sight that was in the first like minute of gameplay that I've seen like a million times now. That looks really cool. Maybe like I want to see a gameplay vignette that kind of shows how you can chain together really cool combos and keep the combat moving. And I hope there's some other type of like upgrade system that, because it's open world, you want to explore for a reason. So show us why we would explore this semi-open world and what motivates us to look around the nooks and crannies.
Exactly. Let me see those upgrades, because we've heard teases of RPG mechanics, RPG light mechanics in Halo Infinite. I want to see what that looks like. I also want to see some new gadgets. We saw the grappling hook. Halo is a very physics-driven game, always has been. Grappling hook is a huge step in the right direction there. Are we going to see some new vehicles? Are we going to see some other ridiculous physics-based weapons that Chief has at his disposal? Those are the kind of things I want to see, and I want to see the new multiplayer suite, because they have promised us that we will get plenty of beta lead time for Halo's multiplayer. And if Halo is launching in November, which is kind of the expectation right now, we're running out of lead time to beta test the Halo multiplayer.
I would think that would be right in the beginning of June, right when they do their show, like they say. And now we're turning on the demo and the multiplayer flighting for open or closed beta is starting right now. Like they have to do that. They're running low on time.
Yeah.
So man.
And again, everything's kind of ramped up. The stress and the pressure for a lot of teams is ramped up because of all these delays. But yeah, what I want to see is Halo Infinite comes out, they show off the new multiplayer suite, and they go, hey, you can download the open multiplayer beta right now. Like, let's do some big shadow drops. Let's get people excited, and let's get Halo Infinite into the hands of players, because I think once people get their hands on Halo, whatever complaints they had about the visuals will kind of melt away, because it looks fun, and I'm sure it's going to feel great.
Yeah, it better be.
I
think they did that with Halo 5, didn't they? They showed some gameplay, and then they went with the multiplayer beta.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's get some hype going. Let's ramp it up for that Halo Infinite launch. Super chat from Faisal007. Miles, do you have an email I can reach you at? Yeah, if you just go to my Twitter bio, I have my email listed in there. So feel free to email me whatever. I'll take that back. Feel free to email me. Yeah, within reason. And then we have Poochie, who is now a member of the channel. Appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Thanks for that. Before we transition from Starfield, one quick question, because I've seen it kind of pop up in the chat from a few folks. is Starfield a timed exclusive?
No, I don't think so.
No.
What do you think, Miles?
No, not. I don't think. If it is full up exclusive, it's not going to be timed. It's going to be a forever full up exclusive. And again, you have a lot of options to play it. If you're someone who is only invested in one ecosystem, I get that. I understand that having all the consoles is expensive, and I'm not one of those people who goes on Twitter and says gaming is an expensive hobby. Okay, bro. So if you can't afford it, don't play the games. That's not my stance. I don't like that stance. It's gross. It's really gross. So, but you have the option to play through Game Pass, and with xCloud rolling out on browser and xCloud on your phone, you have a lot of options to play it. And I understand that that's not necessarily ideal for a lot of cases, but you have some options there. But Xbox's goal right now is to rapidly increase its Xbox Game Pass subscriber count, and they understand that exclusives are how you build a service like that. And so they are going to leverage those hard. And that's they're going to leverage those with third-party partnerships aggressively, and they're going to leverage those especially with first-party releases as well, especially with Bethesda. The whole reason that they purchased Bethesda was to boost Xbox Game Pass. That has been said publicly by them. So that's no surprise. That's no secret. And multi-platform releases are not going to bolster Xbox Game Pass.
No. I mean, like you're right. If you are on almost everything but PlayStation, you'll be fine. If you're Xbox, I think. Yeah, I mean, that's why bringing bigger games into the ecosystem is the draw. So you don't have to worry about that. People don't get that. Like, I think there's this attitude that PlayStation is where everyone is, and that is absolutely untrue. PlayStation is one of the biggest platforms next to the Nintendo. So as far as console gaming, so it's not the be all end all. And Xbox is bringing a bunch of new games to prove that this is a place to play, and they are showing it, and people are starting to hear it.
Yeah, their kind of vision of being the best place to play, quote unquote, it's starting to become a reality. There's been this kind of funny shift in the evil games media recently, where a lot of people have been basically accusing folks at IGN of being paid by Xbox to say that they like the Xbox Series X. And that to me just...
Have you looked into that?
It cracks me up. Yeah, a lot of people from IGN are basically just coming out and saying, like, the word of mouth is getting out. Like, with the Xbox Series X in terms of its capabilities as a console, and with Xbox Game Pass, once people have that, once you have a Series X and once you have Game Pass, it is really hard to go back. Like, it's hard for me to imagine a world where I don't have Game Pass and I don't use Game Pass as kind of my main way to consume games, because it's super convenient. The value proposition is absurd. So people from IGN are basically saying that, and now you have a lot of people coming up like, you used to love PlayStation. Is Xbox giving you money? And no. In no world ever is Xbox going to pay any sort of influencer to basically say these kind of things. That's not the world that we live in. They don't have to do that, is the beauty of it. They are building a platform that has organic word of mouth. So there's no incentive for them to pay Zach Ryan or whoever at IGN to say that the Xbox Series X is good and Game Pass is good. There's no incentive for that.
It's a waste of money, and if they were doing that, they would get sued. Like, it's just, it's so dumb when you have so many people out there. How sad is it that these people, there's certain people in this gaming community that don't believe that someone would say that Xbox is the best place to play multiplats on console. Like, that's, if you look at the metrics, it's absolutely the best place to play multiplats, because if you're in the Xbox ecosystem, you may be playing on PC or you may be playing on the Xbox console, and the Xbox console does a lot more on multiplats than the PlayStation is doing. You've got VRR and you've got auto HDR with your legacy games that you bought, a couple years ago or a year ago. It's amazing. And the back FPS boost, there are a bunch of things that Xbox is doing really well for fans. And I know that PlayStation has put out a handful of new games since the console launch, and Xbox has put out a couple of new games since the console's launched. But when you look at it, like someone who played Demon's Souls in November and December, and then they waited and played Returnal, and then they're waiting a couple more months for Ratchet. Like, if multiplats are better on Xbox, somebody like these guys on IGN, they are saying that they've been playing all their multiplats on Xbox, and that's where they've been playing most of the time because they're waiting for the next great PlayStation game to launch. And I think that's actually a good way. I have a PS5, and I think it's really good that I only play exclusives on it because the whole ecosystem is better on Xbox. Now, the problem with this is that the toxic drama gaming community went and looked up these guys' Xbox profiles, and one of them hadn't been on his Xbox in 2 weeks. Did you hear about this, Miles?
No, I saw some people in the chat basically saying that somebody was caught lying. Do you know? I guess if you don't want to call them out, that's fine.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say a name because even if I did, because I think it's ridiculous. But I talked to a friend of mine about this, and I said, "Is it possible that his account that he was, showing offline, so it doesn't show your progress?" He says, "If you're showing offline, you'll still show your achievements and which game you played last. You're just not available online to hit up for party chat." So, the problem with that is I think he was claiming over the past few months he's been playing more on Xbox, but the guys were trying to catch him in 4K that over the past 2 weeks he wasn't playing on his Xbox.
Fraud!
Still doesn't make him wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if he spent the past 3 months playing like 80 or 90% of his time on Xbox, but the past 2 weeks he hasn't even been on his Xbox, it doesn't make him a liar. And the toxic dumpster community went after him, started harassing him. I think it's horrible.
It's
horrible.
not surprising. I got a lot of upset people on my Twitter feed when I had the audacity to say 2 positive things about Resident Evil Village for the PS5 version and the Xbox Series X version.
Oh, I love that tweet.
So I got a pre-release code for PS5. And I made some jokes about it on Twitter saying that, I was betraying my Xbox. I didn't really have a choice. I wasn't going to turn down a pre-release code for one of the games I was most excited to play for the entire year. So I played it on PS5, played it with ray tracing. Performance was fine. There were noticeable dips. It wasn't awful. It wasn't unbearable, but I would notice drops in frame rate consistently. Load times, though. One thing I noticed playing between the versions is that PS5 has these nice subtle fade to black and then it cuts into the next scene, whereas Xbox Series X has full-on load screens that didn't exist on PS5. So I basically said that PS5 has really fast load times for Resident Evil Village and that the Xbox Series X has better performance with ray tracing on. That was the tweet. And people were
I know.
up in arms, and I'm just like, that is the reality. This isn't me like stoking any fanboy nonsense. Like, I prefer to play on Xbox. That's not a surprise. I'm not going to lie about a performance difference that I noticed between 2 versions, being someone who has played through this game multiple times on both machines. I've played through Resident Evil Village about 7 times, and people were trying to like fight me on fight me on these performance differences. And basically, Xbox fans were using that to dunk on the PS5, and PS5 fans were using that to like dunk on the Xbox. I'm like, oh my God, like we have to be able to talk about the objective differences between versions without it turning into this thing sucks. This thing sucks. Like, there's no nuance anymore.
There's wasn't even a pros and cons tweet. It was a pros versus pros. Not even a versus. Your tweet was, this is great on PlayStation and this is great on Xbox. And this community can be so. When I say this community, I mean like that one type of community that
people who want the confirmation bias. They want any person anywhere. They want to be able to take what they say and use it as ammunition to say that whatever platform they like is better or the one that they don't like is worse. And it's, I get it. I mean, on a psychological level, I get it. I don't get it on a personal level because it's not something I really have fun engaging with. But
on a psychological level, you get it. Yeah. I love that. It's like you're saying, I understand people are nuts when it comes to, I mean, if you're, nuts can be offensive, but if you're nuts about video games, as far as where you act like a crackpot, I mean, it's not that serious, but it is crazy. I'll put out a tweet like about how great it is to play Xbox games with auto HDR and VR and 120 FPS and FPS boost and all this stuff, and then I'll add at the end of the tweet, just so I don't get attacked, I'll say, and I'm so excited about all the games that are coming for Xbox in 2021 and beyond. And then I'll still see people like get angry about that Xbox has no games and Xbox is a crappy platform. And And I see Xbox guys do that for PlayStation. I'm like, if you can't just enjoy your favorite platform, you have to dunk on the other one constantly. Are you really enjoying the hobby? I mean, are you actually happy with your platform of choice? If
Game,
you're
it should be
always
fun, Colt. Talking about games should be fun. I say this ad nauseum, but you know, if you can't talk about games in a fun way, just don't take a second, take a step back and be like, why am I going to say this mean thing? Why am I going to fight someone on Twitter about a video game take? Where is this coming from?
I say before you send the tweet, show it to your girlfriend or your mom or your sister or a good friend that isn't in the gaming community. Like, and then if they're like, dude, why would you say that? Like, this is video games. But not, everybody does all their all their tweeting in the privacy of their own home. So yeah, whatever. It's fine.
Exactly. It's fun. It's silly. Whatever. I'm going to get to one quick super chat. We're going to transition into Battlefield 6 and whether or not it's being held back, Colt. This is going to be an interesting conversation. Poochie, I want to see how the world interacts with Master Chief and maybe a mini boss fight. Okay, so what you want to see from E3, that would be cool. A little tease as to some of the villains, some of the big baddies we might see in Halo Infinite would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. That Halo 5 had mini boss battles, but it was the same mini boss like 8 times. So
yeah. So Colt, it was confirmed, despite some earlier rumblings in the year, that Battlefield 6, or I think it's being rebooted, I don't know that it's necessarily going to be called Battlefield 6, was initially going to be a PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC release. No previous gen support. It was then confirmed pretty much this week that, yes, there will be PS4 and there will be Xbox One versions of the new Battlefield game, which has kind of ramped up the same conversations that we've seen with Halo Infinite. So I want to get your thoughts on whether or not you think fundamentally that Battlefield 6 launching on previous gen consoles is going to hold it back.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not held back. People have their own idea of why a game would be held back. Apparently, they've never made a game before, and neither have I. So let's look back at Battlefield Bad Company 1 on the Xbox 360. You were blowing apart buildings and knocking over trees and had all this physics-based cool stuff. And that hardware wasn't that advanced for the time. So as far as if Battlefield was supposed to be next gen only, and now we're suddenly hearing that it's on old gen, that probably means that the team scaled down the game and made it playable on older PC hardware and Xbox One and PS4. So I think you're still going to get the same great experience. The Battlefield games have always looked and felt amazing every single time they've come out. And there's things that are being scaled down. So I think Battlefield 6 or whatever it's going to be called is going to be phenomenal. It's going to look great, and it's going to have everything you expect from it. If you're expecting some next level, never seen before, like game mechanic that is next gen only, this game came out in the first year of the consoles. It's like cross gen is so normal. We're not going to, you never see the, oh my gosh, this has never been done before until a year or two into the console. And like Rift Apart from Ratchet and Clank is the only thing where we're seeing, wow, you can swing into a whole new dimension within, a microsecond. It's like, yeah. And then everything else is pretty much par for the course of great games. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where you have people in the community. Again, a lot of us, myself included, have never developed a game. I don't know the realistic scalability. I've talked to a lot of developers, though, and I've gotten their kind of experience and their takes on it. And things like physics are definitely scalable. You can see that if you go open up a PC game. A lot of PC games literally have a slider for physics. So that's one area where people are saying, well, they're going to have to dumb down the physics. Okay, well, that's scalable. We know for a fact most engines have scalability when it comes to physics. So maybe the previous gen consoles won't have as detailed physics. Okay. AI.
Or a physics or regular baked in like computed physics, like you load up Borderlands 2 and you can activate PhysX if you have a more powerful PC or an NVIDIA powered PC. Like, yeah, like they can turn things on and off, and some of that stuff is built into the engine, so you just get the base model engine physics on the Xbox One and PS4 version. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so there are things that are scalable that people are using to say that this is being held back. And we don't know if somebody came out from the studio and said, yeah, we had to cut stuff from the game to make it run on previous gen consoles, then sure, maybe we could have that conversation again. But if this was their vision, because it sounds like regardless of platform, that this will be the biggest Battlefield game in terms of player count. Because this is a multiplayer centric title, I don't think AI is going to be anything wild or unheard of that we haven't seen in a game before. I don't think that was their intention, which is another area where, yes, previous gen consoles, there are limitations to what AI can do. So if they came out and said that, yeah, we had to cut this to make it work, then maybe we can have that conversation. But we don't know. We don't really realistically know what the grand vision for Battlefield was, and we don't know if they had to compromise that to quote unquote sell more units. Because let's transition into what we were talking about earlier. Battlefield 6 is a huge multi-platform release, and there is maybe a scenario where this team wasn't comfortable alienating millions and millions of consoles that exist on previous gen to have a next gen or a current gen quote unquote only release.
Right. I mean, I when I look at Battlefield 5 on the Xbox One X, it looks incredible. So, I mean, you're looking at a console that is 2 to 3 times less powerful than the Xbox Series X and PS5. So it's one of those things I think people get overly concerned over, and then they play the game and they just forget they care. Just enjoy it.
Yeah. So the whole, is it being held back conversations are mirrored to the Halo Infinite scenario. We know Halo Infinite, in terms of scale, in terms of physics, in terms of what they're trying to do with the game, will be the biggest and most ambitious Halo game. And it's going to exist on previous gen hardware as well. But people, kind of are assuming that it could be bigger, it could be better, it could be more ambitious if it was only being designed for next gen quote unquote consoles.
And minimum spec PC did not exist. Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think you're asking for too much too early. Like, this game has been in development for 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 years, and they've got minimum spec PC, and maybe they did decide not to release this game on Xbox One and PS4 hardware until the last minute. And another thing is, do you blame DICE? They're looking at, like, in comparison, just a few million consoles of next gen is out instead of 100 million, so it's one of those things, like, they probably told their engineers, hey, can we get this thing scaled down to Xbox One and PS4, because not everybody can get a new console and we're going to suffer in sales. And they're like, yeah, I think it's worth it. Look how great the game looks on Xbox One and PS4. So yeah, it's a good decision.
Yeah. So
and you know what, let me add one more thing. Samuel Bateman, who is one of the engineers for Xbox Series X and the Xbox One consoles, he made a joke on Twitter yesterday that he made a sarcastic joke that he's so upset that more people are going to play Battlefield because it's on old consoles. He's like, oh, I don't want more people to play the game. And then he bookended it with, accessibility is really important to allow more people to play the game and experience it on more hardware. So for them to say our audience has shrunk because there's a shortage of next gen consoles, let's scale down and have a version on the old consoles so more people can play our game at launch and it'll be bigger. And they're a multi-platform developer, so it's important for them to reach as many people as they can, because if you're EA, you want to get on as many devices as possible.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And maybe that was the reality, is they had Battlefield done in terms of like what the next gen versions would look like and what high-end PCs would look like, and they're like, we're happy with this. Can we scale it down without compromising our vision? Maybe that was the reality. Maybe there was, the game wasn't compromised outside of visual fidelity, outside of some physics, outside of resolution, outside of frame rate options. So there, compromises have to be made in that sense to get it running on previous gen consoles. There's no doubt about that. But does that inherently hold back the game is the big kind of hotly debated subject. And
no, there's something else I have to add to that is people have to understand that when a game design team gets together and concepts and builds a game, they always have a certain scope that they stay within because they know that they have to cater to a certain type of hardware capability to make sure their game can do everything they want and look the way it looks. And so for you to, as a fan, to expect Battlefield to like break barriers that have never been done before, and everyone to have a pretty medium to high end graphics cards on PC to keep up with what the newest consoles are doing, like game developers don't look at things like that. They look at, okay, game design is mostly in this. Maps are about this big, so they're not so big you're walking forever, and you have this much in the world because this is what makes a game hit really hard and have impact. And I'll bet you when they asked, hey, can we get this game scaled down on Xbox One and PS4 and still look good? I'll bet you almost every one of the designers said, yeah, we can make the game look as good as we think it should on that hardware. And then they went ahead and did it. So for people to expect this mind-blowing, never-seen-before thing in the first year of a new console, that's not really how developers work. They have minimum spec PC that they try and keep to as well. They don't want a myriad of configurations of PC builds running great and then some are running just really horrible. And people are like, this game should not have a problem running on my, $800 or $1,000 build that I've had for a few years. This is ridiculous. What did EA do? They don't want that either. It's really complicated, and it's a complicated discussion.
Yeah, it's a complicated discussion, but it's a good one to have because there are so many logistics that go into a team designing a game because they are more in tune with what people are playing on than we are. I guarantee that because that is a huge fundamental component of their jobs. And them making money is being in tune and aware with what is the majority of people using when it comes to specs and what can we do in that space with a game. So yes, sure. If these developers only catered to the most high-end possible options, they probably could do some more stuff. But
it would be like Star Citizen, and we'd never see the game.
Yeah,
they're constantly just chasing the dragon there. And I always remind people: did God of War in 2018 and Red Dead Redemption 2 feel held back by the Xbox One, or the base PS4? Those games are incredible. They're some of the best games we played in the past 5 or 10 years. And that's just not how development works. They're out number one to make a really great, compelling game that draws a huge audience of people to buy the game to make their money back. Yeah. And something that can be talked about. And artists want their creation to be hailed and praised and talked about and whatever.
It's just something I see. I saw it making the rounds and I wanted to talk about it because I know, we've had this conversation before regarding Halo. We've had this exact same conversation regarding Halo Infinite, and it's just happening again with Battlefield, and it'll happen again every time a big game is cross-release, which is there's going to be several more big games that are cross-release. And that's just kind of more so this generation than last generation because of just availability issues. And there's going to be a lot of hard conversation with teams like, if we release this, like we were talking about with Returnal, this is only on PS5. We have a max number of units that we can sell, like 7 million, because that's how many PS5s are available. And stuff like that is scary, especially for new IP, especially for multiplayer-focused games. They thrive on the communities. They thrive on the word of mouth. So you're just alienating your game if you're going to develop it in a way that it can only work on this hardware. You have to have this super high-end hardware to play it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna get to a couple super chats here. Shout out to the 350 folks rocking with us on this fine Saturday. Really appreciate that, guys. Binyabik, hopes and expectations for Hellblade 2. And Colt, do you have any Japanese/smaller games? Do you play any Japanese or smaller games? And have you had a chance to try Dolby Vision? We got a loaded super chat here. Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
So first off, what are your hopes for Hellblade 2? Hopes, expectations.
I'm okay with the combat. It was just in the first game, it pounced on you. Like all of a sudden you were doing all this puzzle stuff and walking around and exploring. All of a sudden you had to fight an enemy, and you didn't fight frequently enough to get really good at the combat. So I want a more open, flexible combat system. And I've looked into how they're having Melinda Jorgensen do combat training. So they're going to have more. It'll be more than just swing, block. So that looks really cool. So I'm hoping that world is semi-open world. I'm just not sure when we're going to see that game. They're going into motion capture in the middle of their motion capture time is in the past year. So they're in that window where they haven't been able to do very much because of stay-at-home lockdown. So.
Yes, this is going to be a very ambitious game with a lot of motion capture. They're using the photogrammetry kind of scanning for environments, so they're going to have these huge real-world environments that they're using for these set pieces. Beautiful Iceland, such a scenic, amazing place for a game. So I'm in the same camp. I want to see more expanded combat. I want to see more expanded progression. The storytelling of the original Hellblade was incredible. I think they nailed that, and I think they're going to expand upon that in some big ways. But it sounds like this game, compared to Hellblade 1, which it's kind of wild to think that Hellblade 1 was pretty much an indie game.
Yeah.
Super small scale project. Hellblade 2 is going to be the polar opposite. The scope of Hellblade 2 is, from what I've been hearing, massive. Really massive scope compared to Hellblade 1 in terms of production, in terms of environments, in terms of combat. Yes, and so that leads us to when this game will be coming out, which is 100% not this year. Anyone who's expecting Hellblade 2 this year, don't at all. If we're lucky, we'll get it fall next year. That's where I'm at right now. In a perfect world, we're getting it fall of next year.
Yeah, I think we're getting it in 2023, but we'll see.
Exactly. Yeah, don't expect it soon. We all want to play it. I want to play it. That initial trailer has captivated me so hard for so long. I've watched it so many times. I want to get my hands on that game, but at the same time, I know it's not soon. It's not soon TM. It's not even Blizzard soon. It's not soon.
Soon TM. That's funny. I think that Hellblade 2 started production in 2018. So if you have a 5-year AAA development, let's see, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I like to count on my hands.
20, this many.
Yeah, this many. So yeah, 2023, and then you throw in COVID, which could be 3 months to a year. 2024, I don't know. 2023 is what I really think that game's coming out. So, they finished the game at the end of 2017. So, I'm sure they started the production or concepting in sometime in 2018. So, yeah, 2023.
2023. Yes, unfortunately. Again, we all want to play it. I get it, but let's calm down here.
I also don't want Xbox to put out a game in 2 to 3 years. I know Xbox Game Studios, most of those projects started fresh in 2018, and I don't want them to crank out a game in 2 years and go, this is a passion project. They've got some big teams that need to be doing their big stuff, and they all sound like they're super ambitious. So I don't see Xbox fans demand games to come out in 2 years. I see it from the other camp because they want to use it as a griefing moment. And I tell those people, like, I don't know, as a fan of gaming, I want to see my favorite platform put out their games in, 3 to 5 years of, full development time and funding. I want the best. I don't want something hacked out because you think that it should be out. So
I agree. I want a game to come out when it's ready. That's when I want a game out. I don't want it to be like, well, this game took 3 years. This game took 4 years. This game took 5 years. I don't care how long this game you're using as an example took. I want this game to come out when it's ready. And a lot of these pressures that we've seen have led to killed ambition, damaged products. Cyberpunk 2077, the prime example of ambition and scope being completely squandered by the pressures of a publisher to get this game out by X deadline. And that permanently damaged the reputation of that game and, unfortunately, that entire team. I wasn't surprised when we started seeing head people leave who who had worked on games like Witcher 3, worked on some of the most important games this studio has ever worked on, because they were forced into a position where they had to put out something that they were not fully proud of, that they were not fully ready to put out in the world, but someone above them said, you have to get this out. And I don't ever want to see that. It sucks. Imagine being that person who spent years and years of their life working on this game, legitimately had the vision and the goal to make the most ambitious, the biggest, the best sci-fi game that's ever come out, and then it comes out to just the most negative PR that we've seen in a decade. Imagine that. Imagine being that team and just having like your project damaged in such a way, and it's completely out of your control. You can't even do anything about it. Imagine how awful that feels.
Yeah, and I actually really enjoyed Cyberpunk 2077.
I did too. I beat it. I liked it. But the entire time I was playing, I was thinking, wow, this could have been what they wanted it to be when it comes to the biggest sci-fi epic of all time. It could have been that. But dollar bills, y'all got to get it out before Christmas. And it's yikes.
Yeah, I really feel like CD Projekt Red, they felt like they couldn't delay. They weren't allowed to delay the game anymore because the public wouldn't let them. And that was one of those situations where, rational people say a delay is a good thing because the game's going to be better. But I think the majority of the people talking were like, this game better not get delayed again. And I think CD Projekt Red took that to heart and said, we better not delay this game anymore. We've already ruined the goodwill. And I'm like, oh, it was the wrong decision.
It was I would have just been so happy if they did a Halo Infinite style. Sorry, guys. We understand you want to play it, but we need a year. We need a full year.
I mean, they sort of did get an extra year. I mean, people were expecting it to come out in 2019, and I don't know, it was a mess.
They kept doing incremental delays, which is always worrisome. Whenever I see people like delaying a game by 3 months and then 3 months and then 3 months, I'm like, uh-oh. Okay, let's see what this launch looks like, because they're at a point where they're just trying to get it working well enough to put out to the public. Like when you're doing those incremental releases, you're getting pressure from a publisher to get that out. And that's why we're seeing less and less people put dates on things until it's like 6 months out, until they know like, hey, we are almost done. And so now we're going to give you a date. So they don't have to have those conversations where, all right, it's coming out on this. We're going to tell you the release date 2 years in advance. And then in 2 years, we're going to tell you we need 2 years. People are seeing that people don't like that. And it's better to have no expectation for a release date and then be surprised when you do get one.
Yeah. And now we're seeing a lot of these studios, they don't even say a release date until they go gold. Mm-hmm. And expect Xbox to do the same. I think Xbox, more than any publisher, will not say when their game is coming out until they're almost ready to go gold, because of Halo Infinite and Cyberpunk. It's just not worth it. They're looking at potential lawsuits just for having to delay a game or bring it out and not have it completely bug-free or worry-free. It's really bad. But on the other hand, it's kind of good that these things have scared developers, because a lot of games come out with a lot of major problems and they're just like, well, we'll patch it later. And it's not like, it doesn't ruin my experience. It can be frustrating, but it's kind of good that they're getting out ahead with this fright. Like, oh, we don't want to get sued. It means that they're more willing to delay a game a month or a couple of months to make sure that when it launches, everything works. And I guess we needed that. So
yes, you can't. You can't take it back once it's out in the wild, Colt. Once it's in the world, you can't undo that. And sometimes there's permanent damage that comes from that, and it sucks. But yeah, that's why I think people are going to be very careful moving forward, despite how many investors they're going to have to talk off the ledge or whatever. Like, they need to just be more transparent with these people and say, if we wait, we will make more money. And that's the reality. Sure, you're not getting your short-term gains right now. Sorry, dude. You shouldn't be investing in video games if you are trying to get those quick short-term returns on your investment, because that's not how it works. If we delay this, we're going to make more money. We're going to have better reputation. That's the sequel that comes out after that is going to be better received, and there's going to be more anticipation because of that. And honesty is key, Colt. Honesty is key.
It is. It is.
And then do you play any Japanese or smaller games, Colt? Binyabik is asking.
No, I actually don't. I mean, you can look at my profile. I really don't. There's a lot of Japanese games that people have asked me to play that I've never really hasn't really been my thing. So I'm kind of stuck in a certain like 4 different types of games, and that's mostly what I play.
And
I'm playing Mass Effect Trilogy right now, and I am blown away. Well, we'll talk about that toward the end of the show.
Oh yeah, I'd love to get your impressions on that, because and I think that's totally fine. There's certain people in the community who feel that you have to play all the games and you have to be able to say, oh, you haven't played Yakuza, you haven't played Persona, you haven't played X, you haven't played Y, and we realistically we can't play every game. We don't have enough time in our lives to play every game. So if you find your groove, you know what you like, and you play that, I think that's totally fine. And I think that's acceptable. But you have people who want to say like, oh, well, you're not a gamer because you haven't done X or you haven't played this. And I don't think that's true, especially now that more people than ever play games. Like gaming for a long time was this niche thing that only quote unquote nerds did. And I grew up in that. I was thick in it.
Yep.
Big old nerd playing Super Mario RPG, playing my Pokemon on the playground. So I know what it's like, but at the same time, I'm not going to tell someone what they have to play to be a gamer in my eyes, because that's not how it works. I want more people to play games. And if you start putting caveats as to what it means to be a gamer, that's why I don't even associate with the term gamer, because it makes me cringe a little bit, because it's been so weaponized online that I hear gamer and I'm like, oh no.
I don't know what other word to use. Like when I write stuff or when I say stuff in videos, like, do I say player? I don't want to say consumer or customer. I don't want to say gamer.
Because then that
come on, just let me talk.
I know.
Let me say what I want to say.
It's like I watch a ton of movies. I'm not a filmer. I listen to a lot of music. I'm not a tuner. So it's like I don't know. That's just a personal conflict I have. But we love games. I want more people to play games. And then Dolby Vision. I haven't tried it on Xbox. My monitor that I use in my room with my Series X doesn't support Dolby Vision, unfortunately, but the TV in our living room does. So I'm thinking about moving it out there and testing it out to see how Hivebusters looks.
Oh yeah, I'm not in the insider ring. I don't think I'm in the one that gets the very newest thing, so I haven't tried it out yet. And I'm also not sure which games support it.
Yeah, it's like Dolby Atmos. There's like a small list of them, so it's not a ton. I'm hoping to see it expanded, but yeah, Gears. Playing Gears with Dolby Atmos in Dolby Vision, I bet that's just a treat for the senses.
Yeah, and Dolby Vision is supposed to be the best HDR on the market, so it should be really nice. Yeah. It's just one of those things that Xbox throws into the package. Like you're getting auto HDR, you're getting Dolby Vision, you're getting VR, you're getting Dolby Atmos, and it's pretty cool.
It's super cool. So I'm going to get to one more super chat real quick, and then we're going to transition into the current state of E3 and our kind of expectations there. Because Jeff Grubb has had a busy week, and he was crushing some dreams yesterday when it comes to some big games at E3, and I want to talk about that a little bit. But first, super chat from Faisal007. Miles, is there a Japanese surprise of any kind that might appear in the form of a game or future collaborative work during Xbox E3? Good segue super chat. A Japanese surprise. I am sure we will see some Game Pass collaborations from Japanese publishers at E3. I'm sure we'll see some surprises there. In terms of like a big collaboration, like a big surprise reveal, I haven't heard of anything major that's going to be confirmed for E3. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something though from Bandai, especially because of Xbox's focus on pushing Japanese developers and publishers to work with Xbox. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something. I just don't have any details right now that say like, oh, I know this is coming. Ooh, this is coming. Get ready for this bombshell. I don't unfortunately have anything right now, but I know Papa Phil is out there, shaking hands with every Japanese publisher that he can, and he wants to make Japanese games and developers synonymous with Xbox, which when Xbox originally launched, there were some major collaborations and partnerships with Japanese studios, and then that just disappeared during the 360 era and just completely vanished when on Xbox One. So they're ramping that back up, and they're doing the work. They're putting the work to make it happen. But Colt, have you heard of any Japanese collaborations that are going to blow people's minds at E3 2021?
There were hints of some big Game Pass drops, like
Oh yeah,
big games that already exist, like making their way to Xbox via Game Pass. So other than that, almost no leaks for E3 2021, right?
it's been pretty tight. I mean, you know, people try to throw me in the insider circle now, so I have a lot of people DMing me.
Own up to it, baby.
People DMing me like, "Have you heard about this? Have you heard? Did you see this? Have you heard about?" So I have to like go through and dig through all this stuff that I'm getting DM'd to see like what's legit, what's not. And
Yeah.
I've heard some things. There's some stuff that's out. We're going to talk about one of them here that's likely in this section. But yeah, a lot of it is not publicly known, so that is exciting. It always kind of sucks for the average person when the entire list of E3 is leaked and you know every single game that's going to be shown. Kind of kills a lot of the fun for the average, because even me, like, even though it's my quote unquote job to like be in the know and like find these things, I still want to be surprised every once in a while. I don't want to go into a showcase knowing every single game that's going to be shown and just sit there dead-eyed, just yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I've normally by now I've done E3 predictions or leaks videos on my channel, and I haven't, and I probably won't at this point because nothing's leaking. But when I look back at those, over half of the items in my videos never even came to fruition. So I always do get very surprised at these events for E3 because they do a pretty good job of keeping stuff radio silent. So yeah, I do want to be surprised, and I want to be impressed with what's new and around the corner. So
absolutely, and I'm in the same camp. I got to give a quick shout out to the 400 people hanging with us. Really appreciate it. Again, if you're new to the show, we're doing this every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. If you're digging the show, hit the like button and share it out. Word of mouth is key to building a podcast community. It is. But yeah, in regards to predictions and stuff like that, I do like being surprised, and I think I'll probably do a prediction video probably the week leading up to E3 once I've sat down and kind of collected my thoughts and figured out how I want to present things, because last year I had a lot of fun with my prediction video, but a lot of it was just stuff that I wanted to see, like stuff that could potentially happen that I just wanted to see. And I think that's a little more fun to get that sort of speculation out there, because it's not a prediction video if you already know the answer. So I don't want to like put out a prediction video and just have it be 100% right because I saw what the list was and know everything, because it's not a prediction video then. It's just you quote unquote leaking and pretending you don't know what the answer is. So it's tough. I want to do a prediction video. I want to make it fun, but I don't want to be like, again, spoil the entire surprise. So I'll probably do one a week leading up once I've seen whether or not everything's going to come out, and then go from there with that. But one of the things that has leaked, if you will, is a vampire RPG from Arcane, potentially titled Omen. And we talked a little bit about this before the show started, but had you heard about Omen? Have you heard any rumblings?
That was brand new. Yeah, Miles brought it up to me right before the show went up, and he's like, "Hey, we're going to talk about this." I'm like, "Oh, hey, that's a surprise to me."
All right, let's get into it. So earlier this week, I was a little bit out of it because I got my second COVID dose, but I was getting DMs that day and kind of just ignoring them because I was sick. And people were like, "What's this Omen thing?" And I'm like, "What?" I followed it the next day with a few people, and they're like, "What is this Omen thing that's coming out?" And I was like, I don't know. I haven't heard of whatever this Omen project is." And so I started reaching out to a couple people that I know. And then I started getting some more details about it. And then I think it was Nick Baker over at Xbox Era on their podcast yesterday basically came out and said that, yes, he was very definitive. I'm not saying this. This is a quote from Nick Baker, but he's saying that Arcane will be at E3 and they will be showing Omen, which is a vampire-themed RPG. So people are kind of running rampant with this idea and the fact that it's Arcane, and saying and imagining like the Dishonored engine, the Dishonored formula, but you as a vampire. Is that a game you would be excited about?
I mean, when I think about the Dishonored engine, I feel the similarities between Dishonored and Prey. I loved Prey more than I loved Dishonored. I actually just played Prey a few months ago for the first time. I couldn't put it down. I played it. I played every night until even when FPS boost was coming. I played it 30 frames and then finished it with the FPS boost. So yeah, if it's more like, well, I guess those games, Dishonored and Prey, are very similar in the way they handle picking up items, walking around the world, interacting. So yeah, that could be really, really cool. And I know people love both of those games that I just talked about. So yeah, I'm not like a big vampire guy. Like I don't watch a lot of the vampire movies, and I'm not an expert on vampirism, but that could be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's a really
Omen.
interesting setting. You know,
And a new IP.
and a new IP. I'm pretty pale, so people assume that I'm in the Twilight universe, but I'm also I'm also not the most invested in vampires. Like I love horror and I love spooky things, so that gets me excited. And Arcane has an incredible reputation for amazing stealth games that they built over the years. So I can picture a vampire-ish stealth game where you're sneaking around and sucking people's blood to get powers. I could picture Arcane doing that, and I think that's why a lot of people are excited about it. But
Yeah, they do a really good job. Yeah.
I don't want to upset people, but I'm not big into stealth games, generally speaking. So
Yeah, there was a time for about a decade where stealth games were either very prominent or every game had stealth mechanics, right? So, I don't know. I think at this point, Arcane probably knows that you can't go full stealth for a game. You have to have choice where you can sneak around the whole entire game, or you can try and sneak like Wolfenstein does. Try and sneak for a few minutes, but if it doesn't work, have fun.
yes,
So,
that sells me, because Wolfenstein,
yeah.
like to your point, has a lot of stealth elements. But at the same time, I can just pull out a dual wielding assault rifles and just blow a room up, which is
Like, oops, I got spotted.
oops, throwing
Yeah.
this out the window, which is kind
That's
of
why
more.
Splinter Cell Conviction and Blacklist were so great, that you could do stealth most of the time, but if it went south, it wasn't mission over. It was you better be good at shooting, because now you got to get yourself out of a jam. So, but when I think about this, Miles, I think about how Phil and his team sat down with Bethesda a year and a half ago or a year ago and thought, okay, we want to acquire you guys. What do you guys have in the pipeline? And they're looking at all, like, this is another game that was like laid out on the table where Phil's like, wow, we're going to get, if this is true, he's like, we're going to get a vampire RPG. We're going to get a new fantasy RPG. We're going to get a couple great first person shooters. We're going to get a space RPG. Like, Phil's probably like,
You could tell Phil was giddy, like when they made this
he's
announcement.
so excited.
Like when he talks about what Bethesda had in the works, when they first had that kind of Zoom call with Todd Howard, Phil, when there was the tease for Indiana Jones in the back, you could tell Phil was just giddy because he knew all the stuff that was coming down the pipeline that Bethesda had in the works, and soon, hopefully, TM will start seeing some of these games.
Soon, all rights reserved. Yeah,
exactly. Soon. Don't quote me on that. We'll see some stuff there. So yeah, that's an interesting concept, and Arcane would be a great team to make that a reality. So I'm all for new IP. I want to see what that looks like. If we do see it at E3, that'll be great, because we kind of know a large slate of Xbox's future. So we kind of know what to expect largely from E3 for them, because they've laid a lot of their cards on the table. So we'll probably get updates or trailers for a lot of stuff we've already seen as a bulk of their show. But little surprises like that are going to be the stuff that people are talking about after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at all the studios with Bethesda Studios, most anyone can make predictions on what Xbox is working on. There are a couple wild cards. Like, we have no idea what In Exile and Compulsion is making. Like, they're not predictable, right? So yeah, but most teams, what they're probably working on. So there's a lot of educated guesses. And then you translate that into they've been very radio silent and they've been very tight-lipped about what's coming for E3. So you can expect a pretty good show of a lot of great games that kind of paint the picture that, wow, you thought Xbox didn't have games. They've got a lot coming in the next year and beyond.
Yes, Xbox will have games at some point is
At some point,
is kind of the meme now. But so I don't know if I don't think you are. I think we've talked about this before, but you're not the biggest From Software fan, right? You're not the biggest Dark Souls guy. You haven't been following the cult of Elden Ring leading up to this launch.
Yeah, no, I haven't, and I'm not a good enough gamer to get through those games like you do. But yeah,
they can be grueling. So I remember showing my wife Dark Souls Remastered a couple months ago because it has co-op and she likes third-person games. So I'm like, hey, this is a third-person game that has co-op, and so I threw her in just to check it out. She got to like the first ogre demon boss at the beginning, and she's like, this game's dumb. I don't like this game.
Oh.
I was like, okay, that's fine. You gave it a fair shot. That's all I can ask. But Jeff Grubb, the destroyer of dreams, had a little live stream yesterday about some E3 updates for some specific games. And he basically said that at this point in time, he is unsure that Elden Ring will be at E3 2021. And it has previously, we had confirmation that Bandai Namco was going to be at E3 2021. So it made sense that Bandai at E3 would be showing their biggest game, bar none, at E3 2021. Yeah. But Jeff Grubb has said that there is information that he's received, and we've received similar information that we might not see Elden Ring necessarily at E3 2021, which was the expectation for me personally. I don't know definitively, but I am very, very confident that Phil Spencer has been dead set on showcasing Elden Ring on an Xbox stage for E3, because that is huge headlines. Elden Ring has this massive following. There's so many people excited to see official gameplay for the first time. He's
been adamant that it would be on the stage at some point or for this year.
From what I understand, Elden Ring was supposed to launch in March of this year. So even at the July game showcase of last year, which would have been Xbox's E3, there was that trailer. There was the leaked gameplay trailer from 2019, internal stuff. So my thought was that year there was possibly going to be a gameplay trailer shown. So at this point, it would be E3 2021 that we would see gameplay for Elden Ring. That was the expectation. That is the goal. I know Bandai wants it. I'm sure Phil Spencer wants it. But there's some things that point to maybe not necessarily at E3 that they're trying, it sounds like, to launch this game by March of next year. And with that kind of pressure, there's talks that they won't have a trailer ready for E3 this year, and that it might get shown later on this year. So big hit for my E3 of dreams, which I was kind of, again, expecting Elden Ring to be at E3 this year, because that game was announced 2 years ago and it's been radio silent. It's been dead silent. Officially, there's been next to nothing said about Elden Ring.
So when was that trailer that we saw, like the cinematic trailer? Was that 2018 for E3?
That was 2019.
It was 2019? Okay.
2019 that we saw the E3 or the reveal kind of tease, and we've gotten nothing. No update at all. And it's, it makes people nervous. We got George R.R. Martin involved. So there's already this expectation that maybe it'll never even come out ever, because just because his name is attached to it. And we saw what's happening with the final Game of Thrones book. But yeah, so that was depressing for a lot of people to hear, because a lot of people want to see this game. There is still a possibility that we might see it in some capacity. I'm sure they're still working and trying to do everything they can to get it at E3, but there's a chance that it won't be. So that is that's a bummer. It's a bit of a bummer. I know you're not as invested in the Elden Ring lore and the community, but yeah, people were a little upset by Jeff Grubb, the destroyer of dreams, about his latest Elden Ring news.
Yeah, people bring up Elden Ring in every video comment section of my videos. So I know people are passionate about it, and I don't know. It's one of those things that it's just, you got to be super patient. I don't know what's going on.
So while we're crushing dreams, Colt, are there any games that you are personally unsure of at E3 this year? Are there any games on your list that people are very excited about that we potentially don't see at E3 this year?
Hellblade. I'm predicting we won't see Hellblade this year at E3. I don't know why. I think they should show something, but if they don't, I think that's a mistake. It's a mistake not to show anything, even if it's some type of like development documentary diary like they've been putting on their channel. Something. People are excited, so I would be disappointed if they don't talk about or acknowledge Hellblade 2 at E3, because they showed it at the end of 2019. So
yeah,
you got to keep people. You have to keep feeding them little bits as you go along.
Yes, COVID definitely affected Hellblade 2's PR rollout. We got at the July Game Showcase, we got that kind of dev update, which people were kind of weirded out by, because it was pretty much like, hey, we're working on Hellblade 2, we're taking pictures of Iceland, and that's it. Bye. You're like, oh, okay, that's cool. But
that was like 6 months ago or 3 months ago.
Yeah, so I'm unfortunately in the same camp. Hellblade 2 is one of my most anticipated games. One of the games I want to see more than any other. I want to see what Hellblade looks like in terms of gameplay. I want to see gameplay of Hellblade running on Unreal 5 on the Series X. That would be a headline smashing reveal.
Yep.
At this point, though, from what I've been hearing, I don't think we will see Hellblade, potentially even at all.
I've talked to Xbox, and they said that they don't show gameplay of games until the year of release, and I think they do that because they don't want the game shown until it is in its final form. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, that didn't pan out for Halo Infinite. But I really don't think that Hellblade is coming in the spring or summer of 2022. I think it's closer to 23. So if we don't see Hellblade at E3 this year, it's because it's not coming out in the next year. But I think they should give people an update because it's a big title. And the same thing could be going for Fable. But Fable seems like it's been in development since 2017 or at the latest 2018. But they've been hiring a lot of key people for other parts of the game. So it makes you wonder how far along they are.
That's another one that I hope we get something, even if it is a CG trailer, which is realistically all I'm expecting from Fable.
An in-engine trailer would be nice, because right now we've seen the CG trailer. We've seen like a cinematic trailer of the look and feel of Fable, but gamers don't want to see the look and feel. They want to see what the game looks like behind the controls. It's too soon for Fable for that. But on the other hand, Xbox has way more than those 2 or 3 games that we've been talking about that are exclusive. They have a bunch of stuff coming. And if we see whatever Arcane and Bethesda Softworks and it's a whole bunch of other studios, Playground is working on Forza Horizon. They need to do more than Halo, Gears, and Forza, though.
Yeah, that's been the meme. That's been the meme for a while, is that it's been Halo, Gears, and Forza, and there's some legit criticism there, but they do have an expanded team at this point, and we at least know that they are confirmed to be working on things outside of those franchises. But.
So I have to say this, because this is a really tough thing to hear as Xbox fans and PlayStation fans eat it up, but if Starfield doesn't make it in holiday 2021, it will essentially mean that Xbox in 2021, their biggest games are Halo, Gears, and Forza. Absolutely. Gears Tactics in November, Halo Infinite in November of the next year, and Forza Horizon in like September. Forza Horizon 5. And that's not a good way to go into the generation with Halo, Gears, and Forza and a bunch of third-party partnered games like Ascent, Crossfire X. I
mean, that's the Holy Trinity, Colt. Halo, Gears, Forza.
That's all the Holy Trinity been. And people have the wrong perception of what Xbox has been, because in the Xbox 360, when they thought they had all the bangers, it was all third-party partnered games made by studios they don't own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Alan Wake,
BioShock.
I mean, they didn't even own Gears back then.
Oh,
They didn't own the studio. It was Epic.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they need to shake that. Xbox Game Studios has set out a roadmap to shake that narrative. But yeah, to your point, it's looking like 2021 will not be the year that they shed the Halo Gears Forza narrative.
That's how you look at it from a distance, but it's very possible that the next Wolfenstein game is coming and it would be exclusive to Xbox. That's very possible. It might not happen, but the final in the trilogy may be exclusive to Xbox. Machine Games will have the last Wolfenstein game while they work on Indiana Jones. But Xbox isn't going to show, they're going to show a bunch of stuff that's coming in the future and show gameplay for stuff that's coming this year. So there's a lot more behind the scenes, and I've covered those games in a couple different videos that a lot of people have watched. And to go over any of that, I'd have to look at a list again, because there are actually a bunch of games that are exclusive to Xbox, timed or are partnered. So
exactly, and that's what's really exciting is Xbox understands the struggles that they've had. They're not ignoring that. They're not looking at what PlayStation is doing and saying, you know what, we have no interest in having bangers, quote unquote. Like, no, we're fine doing what we've been doing. No, they understand that, and that's why they've been investing in Xbox Game Studios, and that's why we have a slate of a bunch of games, confirmed and unconfirmed, that are going to be coming out for Xbox. So yes, it takes time to build these studios up. You have the PlayStation fans spinning the narrative that, Xbox is just buying studios while ignoring Insomniac, ignoring Naughty Dog. Basically, as a PlayStation hardcore, you should be stoked by the Xbox business model when it comes to fostering studios, because it's identical to what PlayStation did with their biggest teams and studios. So it's funny to me that still gets pushed by the people who say that Xbox is just throwing money around and buying teams, because that's not the reality.
Somebody in the chat said, Colt, was Prey a scary game, or is it more of jump scares? There are not that many jump scares, but it's kind of a creepy game. You feel very vulnerable. But midway through the game, you get so many great ways to protect yourself. It's such a good game. Such a good game. I'd recommend playing it.
Yeah, I need to sit down and play it. It's one I haven't even tried. Everyone's been bugging me and pinging me, Jez especially, to play Prey.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard nothing but great things, but I haven't sat down.
I played it at launch and got 2 or 3 hours into it. I'm like, oh, this is no good. And I turned it off and never loaded it back up. And then I picked it up this spring and I couldn't stop playing it. It's so good. If you like Deus Ex, it is so much like Deus Ex in the way you get your inventory and the way you interact with the computers around the offices and the way you walk around in first person. But you're on a derelict spaceship. So it's like Fallout, Deus Ex, and Dead Space. But it's not that scary. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it looks really cool. The alien bits and the way they kind of interact in the world seems like a really unique thing that hadn't been done before. And I think that was like one of the biggest selling points for a lot of people, is the way the aliens were presented.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So I'm going to get to some super chats here. We got quite a few. Appreciate all y'all and your amazing support. Mr. Joanna Dark coming in hot again. The rumored Project Omen being a vampire game. What type of game do you want it to be? Would you prefer Legacy of Kain style or Vampire the Masquerade?
Oh boy, I don't know. I don't know what Vampire the Masquerade even is, and I haven't heard of Legacy of Kain.
I'd go Legacy of Kain. It's this old school PS1, basically action platformer where you played as a vampire. So I have fond memories of that game. I miss that style, like taking that action platformer and making it like a Spider-Man, like grand scale open world where I'm just a super powered vampire. That's what I want from Arcane. I don't expect that to be what we get from Arcane, but that would be more my jam. Whereas
I mean, that makes me think of Prototype. Remember
Prototype was fun.
Oh, man.
Dumb fun.
I love those games.
Just a really dumb game, but I'm just a sucker for those, like Crackdown. Not a good game.
Yes, I
but
know. I
super
love
fun.
That stuff. Just super powered guy, like just rampaging through the city. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, the story isn't gonna, bring out the tissue box, but those games are so fun.
Let me just be a stupidly overpowered monster and destroy things, okay? Sometimes that's what I want. Sometimes I don't want the heavy narrative. Sometimes I don't want the complex storytelling. Sometimes I just want to turn my brain off and smash things.
Yep. Gosh, those are great games.
Faisal007 with a super chat says, I think we are getting Project Mara before Hellblade 2. And I think that's probably pretty possible, because the scale of Project Mara is a lot smaller for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not convinced that Project Mara is a game per se. Isn't it mostly in it like an experience?
Yeah, it's mostly going to be an experience. I'm really fascinated in it because that team especially has been so focused on presenting mental health in video games in a way that is accurate and a way that tries to project the experiences of people with schizophrenia and other serious mental health issues. So that's the goal of Project Mara, is to kind of show you how horrifying the human mind can be, which for me is a really terrifying concept, because I understand that. My family has a history of mental illness. My dad suffers from schizophrenia, so I've seen kind of what that stuff can be like firsthand, and it's really fascinating, and it's really horrifying when you try to imagine what it would be like to not have a control or a grasp over your own brain, and what your brain can do to you that you cannot stop, and stuff like that. That's scary. That is true horror, and that's kind of the goal of Project Mara.
Yeah, I just don't know how that could be something that they work on for a long time as they, break ground with something like that. But I don't know. We'll see which one comes out first.
Yeah, it's more of a tech concept, and I'm sure the name will get changed, but I know the scope of Project Mara, I think, is pretty much like one apartment. Like, it's a space, like a hyper realistic environment, and they're basically scanning that environment. And I think they're using that to kind of help development for Hellblade 2 and future projects, to have a better understanding of how to scan real world environments and turn them into interactive spaces in a video game. But what we've seen of that in terms of detail, in terms of like, if you want photorealistic graphics in a game, like, that Ninja Theory is pushing the boundaries there, and we're going to see some really amazing stuff from that team.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Psychonauts with the super chat says, longtime listener, first time caller. Just wanted to say hi, Miles, Colt, and everyone in the chat. Appreciate that. Love the positivity. Thanks for dropping the super chat. Dovahkeen89 says, we got Kojima for stealth. Side eye. Are you a big Kojima fan?
Nope. No, I'm not,
calling the cops.
But I loved the very first Metal Gear on the NES, and I loved the first Metal Gear on the PlayStation 1. Oof. But the other ones were just too unique for me.
Unique, okay.
Yeah, there's a certain thing about Japanese style games that just don't resonate with me. That are way over the top than what I normally like. But Kojima is going to make something big for Xbox, and just because that doesn't resonate with me, that's going to do a world-changing thing for the Xbox brand, to get an exclusive platform game, like a Metal Gear game, whatever it's going to be, from Kojima on Xbox. That's going to change the way people talk about Xbox during that particular moment, isn't it?
Yeah. Some people don't want...
Kojima's trash. Death Stranding wasn't that great. I'm in the damage control. I've always told people that Death Stranding was going to be highly rated. It may not be my type of game, but don't make fun of a game just because you don't like it. Like, if something's not your type of game, don't make fun of it and call it trash. Because Death Stranding is like an 82 Metacritic. Like, it got a bunch of 9s and 8s and 10s. Like, come on now. If you don't like something, you should have very little to say about it.
If it's not to your taste, that's totally fine. I'll drop a really hot take here and have people roast me on Twitter. I don't like Mass Effect. I don't enjoy Mass Effect. I don't really.
What's your email address again?
I don't really enjoy most BioWare games. You're not going to see a negative thing from me about BioWare or Mass Effect on Twitter. I'm letting
Why would you?
I'm letting people have fun, enjoy it, and I'm not going to be one of those guys, but everyone's celebrating the release of the Mass Effect Legendary Collection, and I'm just like, yeah, Mass Effect isn't that good. You know, BioWare's storytelling isn't that compelling. No, I'm just gonna shut up, let people enjoy their games, and move on with my life. I don't have to love every game that everyone else loves, and either do you, but that does not mean it's trash. I would never.
I actually don't. Yeah, I actually don't like most of BioWare's games. I love the Mass Effect trilogy to death. Like, so that's where you and I part. I really don't like Mass Effect Andromeda at all, even though I played like almost 100% completion on PC. But like people love Dragon Age, the games. Like they love 1 and 2. A lot of people like Inquisition. I can't stand them. I don't like them at all. So I really don't like BioWare, but I love the Mass Effect trilogy. But you won't hear me talk about how I can't stand or I don't like Dragon Age. Like, why would I? Why would I waste my time talking about something that other people like that I don't like? Like,
Yeah,
I'm not interested in forcing opinion at all.
there's so many like Nema with the stupid Keanu meme where he has a bunch of guns pointed at his head that's going around right now, and it's like, drop a video game hot take that gets you in this position. Like,
No.
we all, yeah. Here's a video game hot take. I think a wildly popular game isn't good. Whoa!
Yeah. There's
This guy did it. This guy
spicy
did
take.
it. He said he doesn't like Zelda. This guy's a legend. This guy is a legend. No, stop it. We all don't like the same things, and that's fine. That's okay. But the culture of hot takes on Twitter sometimes gets a little exhausting for you, boy. But
Spicy take.
Spicy takes or bust is kind of what Twitter has become some days. Super chat from Brian Hopkins. Have either of you heard any news of an XCOM 3 by chance? That side project game that released a couple years back was rough. Great show. Keep it up. XCOM 3, Colt, have you heard anything?
I haven't. No, I haven't heard anything. It's been a long time. It's been like 10 years since the last game came out.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. I've heard zero of an XCOM 3. I'm not expecting any XCOM 3 news anytime soon. Not saying it's impossible, but I'm just not expecting it, and I haven't heard anything.
XCOM fans, did you like Gears Tactics? Because I was more interested in Gears Tactics than I was playing XCOM, and I'm not an XCOM. Like I've only messed around with it, but Gears Tactics actually caught my attention faster than XCOM did. But I hear XCOM fans liked Tactics.
Yeah, it's the same, like basically the same formula. Gears looked at what XCOM was doing, basically copied that, added some executions, and made that a Gears game.
Sped it up a little bit.
Yeah. So again, not necessarily my style. Like I played Gears Tactics briefly because I love Gears of War, but I didn't necessarily love Gears Tactics because it just wasn't my style.
It's still too slow for me. Like I would like to play a version of that where you could like click through it in a few seconds, like click, and then all of your players would do their things all at once, and then they come in and it just goes through really quickly. But there's a lot of waiting in that game.
I like Halo Wars. Like I would love to see a Gears in that style.
Yeah,
like,
where you kind of queue up stuff, right?
And then everything kind of plays out in real time, and you get to watch the battlefield unfold. Like that, I would be super into. But the only tactics game that I have really loved over the years is Final Fantasy Tactics. Shout out to the GOAT. Shout out to the greatest Final Fantasy game ever made. Final Fantasy Tactics. I'll die on that hill. But super chat from Faisal007, and then we're going to transition into the final topic of the show, which is just a fun one. And I want to celebrate with you, Colt. I want to celebrate with the community. But 20 years of Xbox. So I'm just going to ping you after the couple super chats. I'm just going to ping you on some of your favorite Xbox memories. So take a second to think on that. In the meantime, Faisal says Ninja Theory has Hellblade 2, Project Mara, and Project Insight. Yeah, so they have they do have several projects in the works simultaneously, and they also have Castlevania that they're working on. Wink. No, just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
That was one of the things I'm trying to will into existence is I want Ninja Theory to do a God of War 2018 style reboot of Castlevania. Make it so. So I'm just willing that into existence. I'm just sneaking it in passively until it becomes a thing in the universe.
Is that still a Konami IP?
Yes, that is still an IP that Konami is hoarding right now. Absolutely.
Oh gosh.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to hear about 20 years of Xbox? I'll sit here and talk about what happens in 20 years. It's funny. Xbox started in 2001. I was nowhere to be found really with gaming back then. But 20 years of Xbox means to me is playing Star Wars Lego with my daughter when she was like 4.
Star Wars Lego.
So fun. Like we were so hooked on that game. And it's funny when you think back, like some of my favorite games on the Xbox are multiplats. So one of the first games that I bought on the Xbox 360 when I got all in as an Xbox fan was GTA 4 and Mass Effect Part 1. So those games are what won me over and hooked me into like where I was playing every night, sometimes in the morning before work. So, and then of course I played Gears and Halo and Alan Wake. But Xbox has been a great place to play for me for so long. I've met people on Xbox Live that are my true friends over the past like decade. So celebrating 20 years of Xbox for me has really been about 10 or 12 years, but it's been incredible. Been totally incredible.
It's been so
Great
cool to see so many amazing memories shared with people on Twitter and people online this week because like gaming is such an important thing for so many of us. And like you, like maybe not necessarily like the OG Xbox launch, but at the same time, like a few years later for you, you were in with 360 and this started this whole basically new chapter of your life. And now you are like a staple member in the Xbox community, which is awesome.
I bought an Xbox original in 07, right before Christmas, and I had a bunch of games that came with it. And I had that maybe about 6 months. I was playing, like I said, I played Star Wars Lego, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and a couple of like Tony Hawk, some other stuff that I was playing on it, but I didn't keep that because everyone had a 360 in 07. They had them in 06, 05, 06. And I didn't want to, I had like 2 little kids. I didn't want to buy an expensive game console that I wouldn't be able to play very much. But I got so hooked that I had that Xbox original for about 6 months. And I said, forget it. And I took it down to GameStop and I traded in 5 controllers, a bag of games, the whole console. And they gave me like $250. And I went down to Walmart and put the rest down on a 360, $299, an Xbox 360 with a 60 gig snap-in hard drive and 1 wireless controller. And I was, holy smokes, I never looked back. It was great. That was spring 2008.
Yeah, my first console was a Super Nintendo. And I've pretty much had every mainline console that's dropped since then, because we had 3 kids in my family growing up. So we would kind of split the big 3 among the 3 of us. So we would kind of take turns. So with the generation of Xbox, I bought into the early 2000s, super hype, macho, black, big old box of Xbox. And I was like, a preteen at that point. So I'm like, yeah, that's sick. The Xbox is a sick console. And so I got that one. My sister got the PS2, and my little brother, who was way younger than us, got the GameCube. And so I remember like playing Halo Combat Evolved for the first time and having that just blow my mind, and playing Hunter the Reckoning for the first time and having that just blow my mind, and just countless sleepovers, countless LAN parties where we're all bringing 4 Xboxes to a buddy's basement, stinking it up with sweat and Doritos, and just playing Halo until the middle of the night. And like that for me kind of set the social foundation for my favorite aspects of gaming, which are the social dynamics. Like some of my best friends of all time, the way that we stay in touch and the way that we still hang out, despite the fact that we live in completely different states, in different countries sometimes, is through gaming. And so like for me, that's super special. And that has completely changed like how I interact with friends, how I keep up with friends, and something I'm just eternally grateful for, because that didn't exist. And now it's hard for me to imagine like a world where online gaming isn't as prevalent as it is now. Because that is just, like you said, I've met so many great friends, and some of my best friends currently I've met online, and it's such a cool experience. And
the pillar of Xbox is connecting with your friends around the world, and it's always been that way. And almost every single Xbox exclusive platform game has multiplayer, has co-op campaign or multiplayer modes. And there was back a time when I didn't even connect my 360 to the internet because I had a DSL modem and it was being tied up to use for the computer. So I finally bought like a 20-foot Ethernet cable, and I would have to unplug the internet from the computer, run the cable over to my 360 to play ODST online in co-op with my buddy. And then I would unplug it and wouldn't be online for weeks. But now, like, I'm talking to people every night on Xbox Live and making friends. And I feel like the people that I connect with online are my true friends. And it's like they're almost on the couch, sitting next to me playing games. And we're experiencing that together. And I think it's so cool that Xbox's first-party games all have some form of online component to connect you with the people that love gaming, because we all work at a job or around family members who don't care about video games. They don't want to talk about what's coming. They don't want to talk about the specs and tech and all the intricacies of gaming that we love and we're so passionate about. But you go home at night and you put on your headset, you talk to the people who are like your true friends that love talking about the little minute details about what excites you about the hobby. I love that. That's so important to me.
It's so important. And there's people who kind of criticize Xbox for not having a suite of like big first party single player games. And I'm kind of in the opposite camp. I do appreciate that Xbox is focused on multiplayer and focused on the social dynamic. And as much as I appreciate a great single player game like Resident Evil Village, been playing the hell out of that game.
7 times?
Yeah.
You psycho.
I'm a mad lad. But for me, still, social is the most important thing for me. And I play primarily multiplayer games. I'm always kind of bummed when I see an amazing game come out and I'm like, oh, that looks great. And I would play it if it had co-op, but it doesn't. So I'm probably going to skip it because, yeah, all of my friends, we have our routine. We hang out with the families, all that. Towards the tail end of the night, the witching hour, we all jump online and talk about the day and talk about games. And I just love that. And it's just been this tradition for years now. And it's all largely...
which games last longer and have more people playing them the longest? Obviously, it's the ones that have an online co-op or competitive environment so that you can continue to have new experiences with different people or play online and try and level up across the online component. And I've played some amazing I've played some amazing single player games with great story. And, like Grand Theft Auto 5 was so fun. And after 30 some hours, I did that whole entire huge campaign. But then I played for weeks on end with my friends. We would just go on and just mess around. Never laughed so hard in my life, like wrecking cars and getting your friend killed on accident in the online multiplayer, like open world. And Xbox sees an importance in that. And they do need more story-based, like big cinematic games. And they will have those. That's what Hellblade is there for. And there are games that Xbox is making that will fill that need. But the money and the engagement and the longevity for you as a consumer to get your money's worth out of a game is in something that has legs and will be played for hours and hours on end. Like, it's funny that Xbox wants you to buy a game for $60 and play it for 9 months or a year. You'd think they would want you to just buy one and then have another one to buy, another one to buy, but they're also putting you into Game Pass. So they want to give you lots of games that you can play and just stay on the Xbox as much as you can and have fun. I think it's good.
I think that's really good. And I think that the social element and the ease of access with Game Pass for social stuff is huge. It's so easy to be like, because back in the day, we'd have to debate. We'd all sit down in our huddle and be like, all right, dude, this game's coming out on this date. Are we dropping the 60? Are we all going to shell in $60? Are we going to play this? Because we have a couple, troublemakers in the group who like buy it and then they bail out after like a day. And we had to sit down and be like, bro, I'm spending $60. Are you going to play this? You need to commit. You need to commit to me if we're all buying this. And it was this big thing. And now it's like, oh, that's coming to Game Pass. Sick, cool. It doesn't matter if you're done playing it in a day. If your buddy drops out, you're like, okay, cool, whatever. The squad's done with it. I didn't pay $60, so I don't feel this hole in my wallet of just unfulfilled money. So yes, I love what Game Pass is doing for social. And I think Game Pass ties in perfectly to Xbox's kind of multiplayer focused strategy, which some people criticize. For me personally, that is what I love most about Xbox.
Yeah.
All right, Super Chats, 20 years. That's insane. Jay Corden, if you want to drop your chat in again, it looks like it was deleted. Hopefully it wasn't spicy, but yeah, if you want to drop that in the regular chat, I'll try to find that. Dovahkeen89, are we having Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox anytime soon?
Nope.
Nope. Oh, dang. Colt confirming it. What is it? 6 months, right? There's the 6-month exclusivity that was confirmed for the Final Fantasy VII Remake intro grade or whatever the kind of redux.
They basically just added another 6-month exclusivity on, so it's like, what next?
Exactly. So that will be coming to Xbox, and I guess it'll be kind of nice that the intro grade version will be the one that does launch. So you'll have that, from my understanding. But it seems like, yeah, for at least 6 months, it won't be on Xbox or PC. I assume after that, floodgates are open. But yeah, they are just holding on to that Final Fantasy exclusivity for dear life. PlayStation wants you to think that Final Fantasy is a PlayStation exclusive. And they are doing everything in their power to just squeeze that franchise.
Yeah, and then, partnering with Square Enix to make a Final Fantasy like type, like with Forspoken. It's kind of it looks very Final Fantasy-esque, because the way they build their games. So yeah, I mean, it's not a Final Fantasy spin-off, but they want you to feel like the Final Fantasy like type universe is a PlayStation thing. PlayStation also did that with Star Wars Battlefront 1 and Destiny. They wanted you to feel like that game was basically a PlayStation game.
And I had people outside of like kind of the Twitter space and the hardcore space who thought that Destiny was a PlayStation exclusive.
Oh, yeah.
They'd be like, hey, are you getting Destiny? I was like, yeah, I'm picking up with some friends on Xbox. And they're like, oh, I thought it was a PlayStation exclusive. So that is the power.
Their marketing.
Yeah, that's the power of marketing for sure. Yeah. Dovahkeen89, system link for Xbox 360 to play Gears or Halo with my best friends all night long is one of my best childhood memories. Yeah.
Childhood. I love that.
It's funny because, like there are people who are just like, there are going to be people who their first console ever is the Xbox Series X. And that to me, that blows my mind, dude, to think about having the Series X as the first console when my first console was a Super Nintendo. Ooh, how far we've come in a very short period of time.
I told somebody this yesterday, but my first experience of Halo was on PC. I got that it barely ran on my PC, but there was a little bit of gaming I did back in the 2000s, because I didn't own a console for a long time, for probably 10 years. But I played Halo Combat Evolved on PC, and I said, Xbox games being on PC has never been an alien or a weird concept to me, because my first experience of playing an Xbox game was on a PC. There was a time there when, during the 360 era, basically when Xbox games weren't on PC, but I think a lot of them were. I think it's just this perception of people thinking Xbox games are now on PC. It's like they've kind of mostly all done that. For the most part.
Yeah, it's Xbox is a branch of Microsoft, who is a PC focused company. So there's always been this crossover, and now it's nice that they're at a point where that's just the standard. We can expect that every game that they put out will be on Xbox and PC. And I think that's cool. I don't think that hurts Xbox. I don't think that hurts the platform. It's just kind of a more forward thinking way of approaching, especially multiplayer games. Like you're only damaging your own game if you're not releasing it on multiple platforms. If it's a multiplayer focused game.
What it does hurt, Miles, is it hurts the guys that really need to be able to brag about how many consoles have sold. That's the only downside to Xbox releasing their games on PC, because there's certain people that want to say which console is more popular and sold more, but that number does not mean anything in the modern gaming sphere. And PlayStation will put more of their games on PC. They said they will. And it'll take them time to warm up their fans to the idea, but that's where they're going. And Xbox has been doing it for like 6 years. So, yeah, it's all right. It could be okay.
Yes, please. PlayStation hardcore. If you're listening, if you're hanging out, be mentally prepared to see way more PlayStation games come to PC. And be prepared for a scenario where some of these PS5 games are day and date on PC as well. I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow, but I'm just saying you should mentally prepare for a world where there are day and date releases on PS5 and PC. That's it.
It's okay if more people get to play. It's not. I mean, it's not your game. You know, it's not our game. You know, it's Xbox or PlayStation's games. You know,
and that doesn't make the game worse. Please stop saying that. Anyone who says that is an absolute clown. The fact that if a game comes out on PC that it's worse or has less value is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But I see it constantly on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's stop. Just stop. I can't even handle it anymore. I won't even pretend to be pleasant with you if you're going to start dropping that, because it's out of control, Colt. It's the dumbest narrative I've ever seen permeate online. And it only exists because people have bought in 100% to the marketing that they've been sold by a company who wants to make money off them.
Yeah, it's changed so much. I mean, I went into one of the tweets this morning about Starfield being exclusive, and I just muted like 30 people that just don't get it. Like, I don't want to hear their opinions if they haven't been paying attention to where the gaming industry is moving. Like, and it's actually it's very, very a good thing that the industry is expanding and bringing more accessibility to people.
Yes, like I don't get the weird satisfaction that people get from playing games that someone else doesn't get to, which is like a weird selling point for a lot of hardcore fans of certain groups, is that, you know, this game to me is better because you can't play it. And that is weird to me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the weird one, but that idea is so foreign to me.
And it's not like, well, why doesn't PlayStation and Xbox just put their games on every competing console? It's like, no, it's not about consoles. It's about customers. You know, PlayStation wants you as their customer. Xbox wants you as their customer. So they're giving you reasons to play and have a unique place for you to go. So, yeah. So
be it. All right, I'm going to circle back to a couple super chats here, and then we're going to wrap up this show because we just flew past 2 hours. And yeah, that went super quick. So Jay Corden. So his super chat was redacted. It was, Miles, do you think the Omen could be like the Darkness games?
Oh, I saw that chat. Yeah, I saw that.
Did you play any of the Darkness games?
I've played a little bit. That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't expect a vampire game to have firearms. But, you know, like the Darkness has like weird, like demonic firearms.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
That was a really fun game.
I wish. Jay Corden, that's a good wish, because I would love that.
I remember the reason I bought the Darkness game was not for the gameplay, but it was the fact that Mike Patton, who's the vocalist for the band Faith No More, was doing the voice of the main character and the voice of all the demon monsters.
Oh, he did both?
It was something, it was definitely the monsters for sure, but I want to say he was the main character.
He probably was, because he's super talented. He also voiced Bionic Commando, the new game that came out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I love that game. Nobody really liked that game, but Mike Patton was the Spencer or whatever his name is.
Shout out to all the Mike Patton stands out there. He does. Like, again, this is off-topic gaming, but Mike Patton, in my opinion, greatest vocalist of all time.
He never, in Bionic Commando, he never said, "What is yet?" That's an old shout. I don't know if a lot of people know that 1990 or 1989 song.
Yeah, if you know that song, shout it out in the chat, because you are a legend in my eyes.
That was like one of the first like rap rock songs of music, really. I think it was.
Just innovating genres back in the day. Oh, dude, I'm glad we could squeeze in some Faith No More talk in this episode. That's a win for me. All right.
I mean, if you're wearing boxing gloves in your music video, you're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Pedro with a super chat. 20 years of Xbox, and Xbox are now living his best momentum ever. Is the world prepared for what Xbox will be by the end of this generation? What do you guys expect Xbox to be in 7 years? That's an interesting question. 7 years into the future, is Xbox a nano chip embedded into my spinal cord, or what do you think Xbox is that?
I expect in 7 years, people say, "Holy crap, Xbox has a ton of games." I mean, by 2024, which is in do the math for me, 3 years from now.
3 years from now,
In 2024, the industry will have said Xbox has so many games on the platform now. So, I mean, we'll have a few in 2022 and 21 and of course 23, but by then they'll all have been out and they've culminated. So I think the bulk of what Xbox Game Studios is working on now, by 2024, almost all of them will be out and have been rated and played and talked about. So in 7 years, the industry will say Xbox is nearly everywhere. It is huge. Game Pass is a game changer. There are so many games on the Xbox platform. You can play on a smart TV. You can play on your tablet. You can play on your console. You can play on a PC. And you can play everywhere but PlayStation. That's my answer.
It's 7 years from now, we're going to be in a position where Game Pass will be as big as Netflix. Like if you play video games, Xbox Game Pass will be something that pretty much everyone you know, even on a casual level, who has any passing interest in playing video games, will have Xbox Game Pass. That is going to be at the point, and then Xbox is going to have a stable of studios that can support one first-party release every other month. And it's going to be a huge, we're going to get 6 first-party Xbox games or more every single year, in addition to cool third-party partnerships. And I'm trying to think. 7 years from now, we'll be on the Xbox Series Z, which will be 10 times more powerful than the Xbox Series X.
Series Z.
But yeah, no, I'm really excited to see the future. Even not just the next 7 years, but even the next 2 years. I want to see the numbers for Xbox Game Pass by the end of 2022, because I think it's going to hit this point of like critical return. Like once Infinite drops, once Starfield drops, once a few of these other kind of like sleeper games come out and show the value of Xbox Game Studios and Xbox Game Pass, publishers are going to be knocking on Xbox's door. They're going to be like, all right, how do we get in Game Pass? How do we launch our game in Xbox Game Pass? We saw it with Square Enix with Outriders. We're going to see a few more this year for sure. And it's going to get to the point where, it's going to be shocking if a game doesn't release in Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, I talked about in a video how it was possible. I'm not quite sure about it as the time gets closer, but how it's possible that Far Cry 6 could launch a Game Pass. I'm not as confident about that anymore. But there's also the rumor that Battlefield 6 would launch in Game Pass. Mm-hmm. That's quite possible, even though it sounds crazy. But Miles is right. Game Pass is getting so big that developers won't. It'll change from like Sarah Bond of Game Pass saying, "Hey, we'd really like to put your game in Game Pass day and date." The developers are like, let me think about it. Like, what's the offset? Like, how much do you need to pay us to make that work? Instead, it will be like EA saying, we want to launch our game in Game Pass. Let's talk numbers. Because anybody who's gone to Game Pass did that because Xbox offered them an amount that they thought, heck yeah, let's do it. Let's put the game in Game Pass. Like People Can Fly with that, and Square Enix with Outriders. Like they went there because Xbox said, hey, we'll pay you this much. This will offset your costs. This is what it will do. This is what we're seeing with people in Game Pass. And Outriders is like, heck yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
It wasn't like, hey, we want you in Game Pass and we're big Microsoft and you need to listen to us. Yeah, but I'm not sure. Oh,
I'm scared that Game Pass is going to take away my sales. And that.
How are we going to get paid? It's like, come on. Run a lemonade stand.
Dude, it's that narrative, despite the fact that there is no evidence whatsoever, and we only have evidence to the contrary, the narrative that I'm concerned about the developers not making money, and that's why I don't like Game Pass, still permeates. Which, unless you have data to support that, that's kind of a bad faith argument.
We don't have data.
You're trying to use the developers as a false narrative to present a service as bad. When
this was actually going on the other day, Miles. There was a podcast where they were saying how could they do this to developers? Like they're not getting as much money because they're bending to the will of Game Pass, and I don't know how you could not be paying attention to what's going on. Like everything in Game Pass was heck yeah, let's do it. You know, it wasn't like it's a contract. Like it's something they agreed to because they liked the terms.
Yeah, they weren't forced into it.
Now, if you're worried about Xbox Game Studios first party games, like, oh, we're in Xbox Game Studios now, so our games have to be on Game Pass. Oh, how are we going to get paid? It's like, you're in Xbox Game Studios. You're already getting paid. Xbox and Microsoft are giving you money up front to develop a game. They're giving you a certain amount because you want to build a certain type of game. And then all the Game Pass stuff is just more of a bonus because people are seeing an increase in engagement and sales, even though Game Pass exists. Pay attention, please. Pay attention.
It's frustrating, and I understand. It's on paper, yes. You look at Game Pass and you're like, this is impossible. I don't understand how anyone makes money. Like because the value is that wild. The value proposition for Game Pass is that hard to wrap your mind around. But if there was no way to make money on it, and if developers weren't making money on it, the service wouldn't take off. People wouldn't support it. That's kind of the reality of it. If there was no money to be made, and if there was no incentive for the developer to do it, they just wouldn't do it. Phil's not kicking down doors with an AK and demanding that you put Outriders into Game Pass. Like that's not the reality here.
No.
It's people sit down and work out a deal.
Synodex in the chat said, I don't worry about grocery stores like making money when I buy something for a good deal. Like if you go to the dollar store and buy a Snickers, you know, for $1, are you worried about if that company is, man, are they getting enough money?
Are you going to call up Ronald Snicker and be like, hey, just want to let
Ronald B. Snicker. Yeah. It's so, the third, it's so funny because I think it's just part of the fanboy narrative where people need a narrative and a flag to wave. But why are you worried about the developers? They're all doing great. And if you listen to In Exile and Ninja Theory's interviews when they came to game studios, like they're full of gratitude. Gratitude is the main word when you watch what they've said about being under Xbox Game Studios. Now they don't have to worry about if they can eat. Now they have funding and they can worry about building a great game instead of worrying about if their employees can stay on and get paid. So, yeah, we're banging the drum too much.
Yeah.
Game Pass good. Snickers good.
Xbox Chaturdays is brought to you by Xbox Game Pass.
And Snickers.
Ronald B. Hungry,
Snickers.
why wait? And thank you. Those are my free ads. I'm not getting paid by Game Pass or Snickers, just for clarification.
You think their CEO of Snickers is really named Ronald? We should look that up.
Yes,
Ronald
let's
B.
fact check that real quick. I hope. If it is, yes, perfect. Would love it. Cool. Well, we're going to wrap this up because we've been going for a little bit. As we're doing that, if you guys have any final questions, drop them in the chat. Huge shout out to everyone who tuned in today. Really appreciate you guys. Always have a blast. Huge shout out to the legend Colt, taking some time out of his weekend to sit down and hang with me. Before we wrap it up, everyone already knows who you are, but where can they find you? Where can they harass you?
Let me read this super for you, since it's not my show. Gaz,
you're fired. Don't.
5 pounds. You're fired. He says, my 2 favorite Habibis. Let's get saucy.
Oh, the king of sauce coming into the chat, dropping the ducats. Oh, appreciate you, boo.
Yeah. Gaz is amazing. Gaz and I talk every day. Gaz is one of the propellants for Xbox Newscast, which is my new podcast. It's on Monday nights at 5 p.m. Here's my commercial. 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or 8 p.m. Eastern Time, or 1 a.m. if you're in the UK. But yeah, I started a new podcast where I'm interviewing industry people like Miles, who are hot and spicy in the community.
Oh, God.
So yeah, it's been really great. And Gaz has been a big motivator. And he's one of those people who said, when are you going to launch your show? And I said, I don't know. He goes, we're going to do it May 10th. I'm like, that's in like 2 weeks. So it's been so great. Like you talked about in the beginning of the show, me getting on camera, and me being on camera has really made things so much more enjoyable. Even though it's way more work, being able to, like, people always say, I always wondered what you looked like, when you hear my voice. every week. You hear someone's voice in a video, you draw a mental picture in your head of what that person looks like. And I got so many comments like, you look nothing like I thought you would look. It's so great. And when we listen to people on YouTube, I feel like we become connected to them. Like Dealer Gaming is a guy that I used to watch for an entire year. Every week when he put a video out, I would watch it as soon as it dropped. And I never saw the guy, but I had this image in my mind what he looked like, because I felt like he was my gaming buddy that brought me news every week. And then obviously now we're real life friends, but I think it's so important to make that connection. It's so cool because what I'm trying to get at is content creators and people that we talk to, we make a connection with them. And so me being on camera has fulfilled on my end. It's to my benefit to feel like I can connect with the people that have been there in the comment sections every week and have been in the comment sections of the RDX podcast. You guys mean so much to me, and all of you have changed my life. It's so incredible. So thank you for all your support. And for Miles is a friend now. I got Miles, spicy Miles. No, I love it. It's really great. So thank you so much.
It's yeah, like I talked about in the beginning of the show, it's been so cool to see more people who've been in the community for a long time coming out, putting a face to the name. Because yeah, for a long time I was just passively invested in the gaming community, like you, watching like Rand videos, watching Colteastwood videos back in the day, and my commute to work, having that on the background was just like a regular part of my routine. And so it's cool to remind people that the people making this content are just fun, awesome people who love gaming, and that's why they're doing it. There's no ulterior evil motives, despite what some people might want to preach about it. It's people who love gaming and just want to talk about it and want to share that passion with a bunch of other people who want to listen and also want to talk about it. And that's what I love about this show, is it's this blend of sitting down with people like you, talking about gaming, hanging out with the community who wants to talk about gaming, and everybody's just sharing this energy, and you just feed off it, and it's amazing. There's so many cool, fun people in the community. And yes, hell yeah for the momentum Xbox has. And I'm excited to watch this community grow.
3 more weeks till E3.
Woo, baby, I'm ready. One more super chat, and then I'm going to shut this down. Ghostface Killer. Love to hear the Mike Patton call out. Angel Dust is one of the greatest albums ever. Keep up the great work. Yes, Angel Dust, 10 out of 10, absolute masterpiece. If you want to go down the Mike Patton rabbit hole, hit me up on Twitter. Take my hand, and we will go on this auditory journey together, because it's an experience. It'll change. It's a life-changing experience going down the Mike Patton rabbit hole. I think Colt can vouch for that.
Yeah, I have to take that trip with you, actually.
Oh, let's do it, y'all. All right, well, we're gonna wrap it up. Huge thanks to everyone tuning in, and we'll actually no. Real quick, you will not see me next week. I will be joining the Bitcast and the folks over at Seasoned Gaming. They've been trying to get me on for a little while. There's a scheduling conflict because it's pretty much the same time as Xbox Chaturdays.
You're sacrificing Chaturdays for...
So I'm sacrificing a Chaturdays. Yes. So I'm excited to hang out with them. It's been months coming, so I feel bad. But we finally found a date that works. So next weekend, no Chaturdays. But week after... we'll see if I can get Dealer and Rand to reveal their faces to the world. That's my mission right now.
Oh, you keep working on that. I've been working on both of them as well.
It's happening, Colt. We making some moves. We're doing this. I have to show my goofy face to the world, so we can all do it. All right.
Yeah, Rand did like a face reveal like 3 weeks ago
with his hair.
I immediately made memes. Kaz and I were making memes. I put Rand's face on the Metallica picture on Hetfield.
Oh yes, I saw that. Yeah, that was so good. So good.
Yep, I made him into Kratos from God of War. Made a bunch of stuff and had a good time with it. Rand's a great dude.
Yeah,
and he needs to get on camera.
He does. I agree. It is weird. Making that transition is weird because you have to put your face out there. I've seen some people take my face and make meme templates and stuff like that, and it's whatever. It's all fun. You do at a certain point have to just realize that once it's out, you can't take it back, and you just kind of have to own it. So
yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. I didn't share a lot of pictures of myself because what there were some pictures that were out about me that were used like in horrible ways. And I just got to the point where I'm like, look, you know what? I've earned this, and I'm not going to hide behind some no life trolls who have, you know, who are miserable people. And I am I'm enjoying life in the gaming hobby. And I'm like, I'm not going to hide behind a voice anymore. So turned on the camera, and the very first time recording and saying, "This is Colteastwood, welcome to the channel," was like super weird, sitting in a room by myself talking to a camera lens.
Yeah.
But,
yes, it is.
But you know, you break the first time, and now when I turn that sucker on, I'm like, let's have a good recording and let's make a great video, and let's enjoy it.
Let's do it. Yeah, there's gonna be mean comments every now and then. I get comments like, "This dude looks like a zombie. This dude looks tired." And I'm like, that's my face. Okay, I can't change it. That's genetics. This is who I am. But I don't feel bad about it.
Say you look jealous, buddy, because like Miles is in front of thousands of people, and he freaking loves it. I'm proud of you, man. It's awesome.
Oh man, I appreciate that. I mean, I'll be honest. While I have you here, you are a huge influence for me production-wise, because I watched a lot of content. I have an audio background, and so
you're doing it. You are doing it too.
Watching your videos, I was like, dude, this guy gets production. This guy sounds good. This is what I want to sound like. I don't, you know, there's the style where you just get on a mic and you kind of talk about whatever, and it's low production. Nothing against that. That's not to my taste. But when I saw Colteastwood video, I was like, this dude gets it. This dude puts a little something extra in there, and so that's
a little extra spice. It's enjoyable as a creator to craft together and get look and feel and set audio and visuals going all at once and getting that dance working. That's why we do it. And I think once in a while, people are like, I really like your videos, and they're really enjoyable to watch, and it's totally worth it when you hear it just once.
Exactly. Yeah. When I see a comment, they're like, dude, this production is amazing. Your audio is amazing. I'm like, thank you. I feel like most people don't care, but I still put in so much time and energy to make sure that the audio sounds good and the edits are good. So yeah, I appreciate that. Kind words are always appreciated. Mean words are whatever. At this point, I don't care. I don't care if you want to be mean to me. I really don't. I don't take it personally. I did for a while, and I would see a mean comment and be like, dude, what did I do?
What did I do?
Why does this guy hate me? Am I terrible? Am I an awful person? And I think realistically, there's something that they're unhappy about, and so I'm the vessel for that energy. And you know, that's okay. Yeah. That's fine.
Enjoy the hobby, guys. Like, it's so much to be excited about. If it's a multi-plat, enjoy it. If it's exclusive, enjoy it. If the game sucks, try and enjoy it. But yeah, it's a good time.
Exactly. Again, Crackdown 3, not a good game, but a fun game, and that's okay.
I liked it.
Crackdown 3 doesn't have to be better than Last of Us 2 to be fun. Okay? There's my hot take for the end of this.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for having me on, Miles. It's
absolutely.
Awesome.
Appreciate you, man. And everyone else, take care. Catch you later.
See ya.